Good evening, councillors, directors, general manager. I'd like to welcome everybody to this ordinary meeting of council on 22nd of February 2021. I would like to also acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land we are on here today, the Wiradjuri people, and pay my respects to their elders, both past, present and emerging. Declarations of webcasting. I inform all those in attendance at this meeting that the meeting is being webcast, and those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements concerning any person, councillor or employee, and refrain from discussing those matters subject to closed council proceedings as indicated in clause 14.1 of the Code of Meeting Practice. I notice that all are present, so there's no apologies. Declarations of interest.
Yes, Mayor Thompson. I have a notice of motion this evening, 9.2. For Portland Tidy Towns, I would like to declare a non-pecuniary less than significant, non-pecuniary less than significant conflict of interest. I will stay in the chambers, however I will not vote. Thank you.
Yes, Mr Mayor, the mayoral minute 8.3, Lithgow Aged Care. I'm the current chair of Lithgow Aged Care.
Thank you, Councillor Leslie. Councillor Statham, if you realise if you stay in the chamber and you're saying you're not going to vote, it'll be a vote against.
No worries, I'll leave the chamber. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Therefore then, Mayor Thompson, I'm in a situation where do I need to declare a conflict of interest through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager, Mr Butler? Is it necessary? I am a member of Portland Tidy Towns, not an executive, and I've been requested by Portland Tidy Towns to put in the nomination, the notice of motion. I've been given advice by two people that it's not necessary for me to declare a conflict of interest.
Well,
however,
it's up to the individual councillor whether they need to declare an interest or not, Councillor Statham. So it's up to you whether you declare the interest or whether you don't.
As a non-executive member, I will stay in the chambers and I will vote then. I have had several people advise me what to do. As they said, it comes down to this. I'm sure the councillors here tonight know that there's no financial gain to me. It's for something for the community. As a member, I'm not on executive, so I will stay in the chambers.
Thank you. And Councillor Leslie, is your pecuniary or non-pecuniary? Will you be staying in the chamber?
No, Mr Mayor, I'll be leaving the chamber.
Thank you, Councillor Leslie. Confirmation of minutes.
Happy to move, Mayor.
Moved Councillor McAndrew, seconded Councillor Goodwin. Those in favour? Any against? Councillor Leslie. Commemorations and announcements.
Mayor,
Yes,
I
Mayor
have
Thompson.
one, if I may.
Yeah. Councillor McAndrew.
Yes, briefly, I just want to acknowledge and congratulate all the recent Australia Day award recipients. I want to especially make mention of the Order of Australia awarded to John Kearns from Portland. John has virtually given all of his adult life in serving not only Portland but the whole community in many roles, including, of course, a councillor for a period of time. So I just want to congratulate John here publicly and wish him and his family all the best and enjoy a long, well-deserved award.
Statham.
Yes, Mayor Thompson. Very sad town, Portland and Wallerawang over the last 10 days. Joan Bellamy, the loss of Joan Bellamy is a tremendous loss to her family, friends and Wallerawang Portland District. I don't think Joan would have had an enemy in the world, and I was fortunate enough for her to be a client of mine for probably 45 years. And the death of Pauline Patterson has shocked Portland. We're very saddened to hear of this, the death of such a beautiful lady. So Portland and Wallerawang have no doubt endured some very significant losses in the last 2 weeks. On a brighter note, the LEAP program is now regarded as something that is very respected in New South Wales, statewide, and I attended an information session at Link last week I believe it's something that's going to be very beneficial to a lot of aged care people, a lot of young people that are learning IT skills that do not have the confidence to go and learn, or the financial allowance that would be for them to pay in the event that they chose to do this. So it's something very exciting for Lithgow, and they're looking for some volunteers that are very, I guess, IT friendly and willing to give a couple of hours a week. And the library and a couple of other places have been venues that perhaps they're going to think about considering. So I think that the LEAP program is something that should be very much embraced by Lithgow City Council.
Statham. Councillor Coleman.
Yeah, I'd like to congratulate the Lithgow Theatre Group. They treated 150 locals to a delightful stage show at the Werrawang Community and Sports Club. There was 18 cast members. It was on Valentine's Day. It was great to see that the venue was packed. It was great to see the new venue being utilised, and congratulations to the Lithgow Theatre Club, who have also secured a spot at the Kindy Car Rally special fundraiser in Mudgee. So I think congratulations to them.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Any other announcements? We move on to public forum. First item is Jane Canfield for item 10.1.3, DA lot 34 lot residential. I think that we'll wait until we get to that part of the meeting and read that out before we get to that. And then we've got another one. I'll get the General Manager to read out. Gay Mason, item not on the agenda, Lake Wallace, and also Gay Mason, item not on the agenda, Bracey's Lookout. Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I might go through the three of them, but then we can return and deal with the questions to the first one, which specifically relates to an item in the business paper tonight, if Council's accepting of that approach. So, Mr. Mayor, the first item is from Jane Canfield, and it relates to item 10.1.1.3. And I will read out the submission. I wish to address the proposed development under consideration at tonight's meeting. Further to my original letter of objection stating the need in this beautiful village area for such a development, the scale of the development, noise impact on local residents in Maddox Lane, Ian Holt Drive and Wolgan Road, including increased traffic in the proximity to Wangal Creek, an offshoot of Cox's River. So additional to those concerns that have already been raised, Ms Canfield wishes to add the following concerns. Proximity to Wangal Creek and the known habitat of the rare copper-winged butterfly. This area has had sightings of this endangered butterfly. The proposed development will impact this area. Number two, the proposed change of rate category to rural, in brackets I realise this does not affect zoning, close brackets, but in a generally rural area, this change of rate category should be taken into consideration. And the third point is that the demand for this sort of development, when we have multiple subdivided rural properties all over the area, including Portland, sitting vacant. And Mr Muir's been provided a copy of this, so if that sparks any questions when it comes time to deal with the development application, he can respond to those. The second item, in fact the next two are from Gay Mason. The first relates to Lake Wallace. My name is Gay Mason and I am a long-time Lithgow resident. Lake Wallace is considered to be one of the jewels in our crown when it comes to tourism. Usually during the Christmas New Year period is packed with campers supporting our local community. They buy meat and cook it on their campfires. They buy beer and wine to drink around their campfires. They patronise our hospitality venues. Many bring their own firewood and fire pits to contain their campfire so it doesn't damage the ground. Last December we had about 20 days of rain resulting in about 120 millimetres of rainfall. We had overnight temperatures in single figures near the water. But campers couldn't have fires in their fire pits unless they were fully enclosed. One camper had a half 44-gallon drum containing his fire during and after dinner, but the ranger attended and told him he had to immediately extinguish the fire because it might start a bushfire. With no way to get or stay warm, his group and many others packed up and went elsewhere. The area was nearly empty on New Year's Eve. I visited campers at Lake Wallace many times in recent years and they've never been stopped from having a campfire. Campfires are considered one of the best things about camping for cooking, keeping warm, relaxing and chatting around. Meals are generally planned around being cooked on the fire and many campers don't have alternative cooking equipment or alternative methods of staying warm. A small sign had been added to the entry signs to say that open fires were not allowed without a permit. I don't know whether such signs have been in place before, but fires have certainly been allowed in the past. It's possible that open fires are not allowed because of the statutory fire ban in place during summer. People are still allowed to have open fires at home during that time, and camping areas usually allow fires, especially for containing fire pits or containers of some sort. There was also a sign indicating that camping was only allowed if you have on-board toilet facilities. Tents, camper trailers and rigs without toilet facilities were not permitted. This seems quite strange given that there is a newly renovated amenities block, and this is also a new requirement, or at least one that hasn't been previously enforced. I don't know the reason for the restrictions and who can stay there, but I do know there will be less people camping there under these requirements. Lake Wallace has enjoyed great reviews and was often recommended on Facebook, but that has changed in the Facebook groups of which I am a member, and other locations are becoming venues for group camps. I ask that the conditions revert to allowing fires in pits or drums and allowing people to camp in tents and camper trailers. Campers love the campfires and also love camping under canvas. If the conditions apply because of the agreement with the owner of the land, I ask that Council try to renegotiate an agreement which allows camping in the way it has previously been possible and is allowed in many areas competing with Wallerawang for the tourist dollar. It concludes with two questions at the very least. Please answer for me, why can't campers have contained fires, and does Council want tourists or not? And Mr Mayor, this was received just recently and the administration will consider and respond to Ms Mason on that and provide an update for the Council. The next one was, my name is Gay Mason. I'm a long-time Lithgow resident. I recently took a visit to Hassans Wall Lookout and we were very impressed with the walkway, which has been installed since I was last there. We headed for Bracey Lookout and luckily I had some idea where it was because the sign just indicates Norm Henry Drive. The road was in terrible condition with very large potholes, so I hoped that I wouldn't have to return the same way. The road continues for a short way past the lookout before it ends, and I suspect many visitors use it hoping to avoid returning over the rough road used to access the lookout. In the interest of our tourism industry, I request 3 points: improving the condition of the access road, adding a sign that indicates Bracey Lookout, and placing no through road signs at the turn off to the Bracey Lookout and at the lookout itself. And again, the administration's just received this and they can consider and respond those comments and respond to Ms Mason and advise the councillors.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. We move now to mayoral minutes, and there are three. The first one is, I would like to make a statement in response to a recent incident in which a member of our community was bullied online and received personal threats to herself and a family. The Lithgow Mercury posted an article on the 26th of January 21 relating to this unfortunate incident. The article was written by a most impressive local young person who was coordinating an event intended to present the perspectives of some members of a local Aboriginal community in relation to how modern Australia is celebrated on January 26. It was a very articulate piece about a peaceful intention behind the event, the persons or personal experiences and the broader historical context. It also detailed the ultimately the event was cancelled due to the abuse and threats received. The article included screenshots of the messages that were sent to her directly. These messages and subsequent social media commentary are distressing. It is undoubted that Council has a leadership role in matters of community wellbeing. Council provides a vast array of services and campaigns that aims to address and raise awareness of mental health, violence and bullying. As Mayor, and I believe I speak on behalf of the community as I know it, I strongly condemn this bullying and abuse. Everyone deserves to feel safe in this community. Together we must promote and uphold the values everyone deserves within our community: kindness, inclusion and respect for all. I would like to call on councillors, council staff and the broader community to always condemn and call out bullying as being unacceptable. Recommendation to the council: note this mayoral minute. I'll put that to the council.
Yeah, I'll move that way.
Move, councillor. I've moved it. It's seconded, councillor Goodsall. I'll put that to the council. Those in favour? Declare that carried, unanimous.
It's your mayoral minute, so you didn't need a second.
No, I know that. That's why I didn't worry about the... Yeah, but put it to the council, but yeah. Yep. Mayoral minute, acknowledgement of retirement of David Mitchell. I wish to express my gratitude and appreciation for the efforts of David Mitchell, Urban Works Coordinator, who just recently retired from council after 43 years continuous service with Lithgow City Council. David commenced with council in 1976 as an apprentice plumber. He later qualified as a plumber, drainer and gas fitter. David was appointed to the position of Rural Works Foreman in March 1991, before working his way up to Urban Works Coordinator role in September 1994. The General Manager of the time congratulated David on his promotion and said he looked forward to a long and ongoing relationship. Little did he know David would continue for another 26 years before his recent retirement. David was a highly respected supervisor and will be greatly missed by his staff and colleagues at Lithgow City Council. He always put the Lithgow community first through his hard work and loyalty. The skills, experience and local knowledge that David takes with him will be a great loss to the organisation, but true to his nature, David ensured a smooth transition for his successor. I extend my warmest wishes to David and his family and wish him a healthy, happy and fulfilling retirement. Congratulations and thank you for 43 years of service to the Lithgow community. Recommendation: Council joins me in thanking David for his 43 years of service to the Lithgow Council and wish him well in his retirement. I put that to the council. Those in favour? I'm quite happy. Mayoral minute 8.3, Lithgow Aged Care. This is very concerning for Lithgow in general. Just over a week ago it was announced that Lithgow Aged Care, LAC, would not be re-accredited after April. While this organisation has no relation with Lithgow's council, we care deeply about the residents and the staff of the facility. The council received no forewarning of this decision or the threat of it from either LAC or the Australian Government. We are exceptionally disappointed in this because we are now scrambling to have the principal parties, LAC and the Australian Government, fully appreciate the dire consequences of the decision for the city's well-being. The Deputy Mayor, General Manager and myself have met with Lithgow Aged Care's Chairperson and CEO to understand this issue. I've written to Andrew G and offered to travel to Canberra with the General Manager to meet with ministers and bureaucrats in the hope of finding a solution. Of course, over the past 18 months, Lithgow has experienced multiple natural disasters, including drought, flooding and most notably bushfire. COVID has greatly impacted the city as well. We are most grateful for the assistance that has been provided by both levels of government and good headway has been made, but recovery will take a long time. In my view, the city cannot readily endure the trauma that this decision will unleash. It must be recognised that the 73 current residents of LAC are at the apex of our community. They have families and relationships that run broadly and deeply across the community, equally behind each of the many hard-working employees that their families will be affected. In the short time since the news broke, we have been trying to achieve a different outcome. Our objectives are to ensure that the well-being of the residents is always safeguarded, and now going forward we reaffirm the objectives in relation to Lithgow Aged Care. The residents are housed close to their established support networks in Lithgow and the employees retain their jobs. It has become abundantly clear that LAC requires urgent substantial improvement. The board agrees the staff on the ground are diligent, but the publicly available performance reports point to a substantial reform being needed to improve clinical, commercial, governance and managerial performances. I urge the LAC Board and management and the Australian Government to take actions available to bring these improvements while retaining the residents and the employees in this city. If that requires something in the form of an aged care expert administrator, then that must occur. LAC holds licences to cater for more than 73 residents. If this aged care facility ceases operating, then I foresee this important social infrastructure being undersupplied to the city for some considerable time. Rural communities must not accede to the social fabric being ripped out of their towns. Lithgow cannot accept this. The recommendation is that that the wellbeing of the residents is at all times safeguarded. The residents are housed close to the establishment and support networks. The employees retain their jobs. I put that to the council.
Mayor Thompson, before you put it to the council, with your permission, I'd like to speak to it, and I'd also like to add an additional point if you're agreeable.
I'll hear what you've got to say. It is a Merrill minute, so...
In the worst case scenario, Mayor Thompson, if the Lithgow Aged Care closes, there are over 120 staff. We need to ensure that their entitlements are protected. I'd just like where you've got the employees retain their jobs and possibly add either additional point or add to it and all their entitlements.
I think that's a council decision. I'll put that to the councillors.
Yeah, I'm quite happy, Mayor. I think that covers it pretty well. There is the issue about the residents and there is the issue about the employees, but there is the issue, as I understand it, of back payments to employees. So both the residents and the employees need to be protected through this process.
Mayor Thompson, I agree. I know of several people that have worked there for many, many years that are owed quite a lot of money. Yes, the residents are absolutely priority, but we do need to make sure that these other people are also considered.
Okay.
Mayor, if I could, I wasn't totally finished. Look, I can't overstate the importance of keeping our facility, our residents and our employees. We've only got 3 aged care facilities in our local government area. There's no way that the other 2 at Portland and Tree Tree, Tabulon at Portland and Tree Tree, can take these people on if worse comes to worse in April. There is no vacancies. In fact, there are waiting lists for aged beds, not only here but pretty well right across the country, but I'm talking about here where the concern is. So we must ensure that everything is done to make sure this facility stays open, the employees and the residents are protected. Yes, there's issues with the Commission and that those issues have got to be fixed, and I really think it's time for the government to get involved and fix those issues. Otherwise we could end up losing this facility.
Thank you. Is there any other commentary?
I just think that's 3 very good Merrill minutes. Well done.
Thank you. So, you put the 4th point in? Oh, yeah, fair enough. Yep.
I think it is receive in the 4th.
Beg your pardon?
I think the intention was that they receive their entitlements, not that they retain them.
Receive their entitlements. Okay. So the employees receive rather than retain. Third word. It's not there yet. Yeah, that's it. You just need to put it into point 3. The employees retain their jobs and receive their entitlements. All in the 3rd point. Yep, good. Everybody had a look at that? You can see that? Okay, I shall put that to the council then. Those in favour? Declare that carried. Okay, we move to 9.1, notice of motion ruled unlawful. I don't necessarily have to put that to the council, I don't think.
Oh, happy to move.
The
Happy to
council
second.
note the decision of the General Manager to determine two notices of motion to be unlawful and that on the basis to not include those in the business paper pursuant of clause 3.2 of the Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Will somebody move that then? Councillor
I
Goodsall?
seconded the motion.
Okay, shall put that to the council.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
And I have a question.
I'd like to speak to it.
I can't take that. You can't speak to it because it's been ruled unlawful. Okay, so right? That the decision of the General Manager to determine the two is moved unlawful. I'm not going to accept you to speak on it. It's been ruled unlawful.
I just had a question.
The question will take.
The question, I just wanted to know if legal advice was taken, I'm assuming that's what happened here, legal advice was taken. Do we know how much that cost?
I don't have to answer that either, but I don't know whether the General Manager has ruled it unlawful, so therefore it is unlawful. He doesn't have to give a reason. All he's got to do is report it to Council.
Will we get that at the annual report?
I've ruled on it, it's unlawful, and I'm not going to have it debated. Okay, so I'm going to put it to Council. Those in favour? Those against? Councillor Coleman and Councillor Leslie against. Notice of motion, Councillor Statham, Portland Tidy Towns.
Thank
Swing
you, Mayor.
structure.
Thank you,
Can
Mayor
I get a
Thompson.
seconder? Thank you.
I'm happy to second it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Firstly, I'd like to inform councillors and staff, the Mayor and the General Manager, that I'm not on Tidy Towns to represent Lithgow City Council. I'm there as a resident and ratepayer of Portland. We have been given a donation of funds by an anonymous source, and it was discussed as to what we would do with those funds. We're having a big makeover in Portland at the moment with lot of potting of plants and also with new bins, new pots in the town. But this is an additional lot of money that we weren't expecting, and it has been considered by the Portland Tidy Towns Committee to request council for a very small section of land down near the rotunda so that there could be at the start of some swing structures. We only need a very small section of land, just big enough to put some sort of structures down there for children with disabilities, and for Portland. Portland's swing structure is dreadful. The shade cloth in Kramer Park was put over the wrong swings. We've got swings that are outdated, and in the report I read that you actually check swing structures every week. Well, I fail to see that that really could possibly be the case. I don't want to insult staff by any means, but a small set of swings down in Savile Park, adjacent to the pool, opposite the foundations, would be an enormous benefit to the people that play touch football, cricket. In general, Portland needs some swings for the public. So I'm hoping that Portland will receive a small amount of land and that families will be able to keep their money in town instead of going to Wallerawang or to the playground in Lithgow, or worse, Oberon, Blaney and Bathurst, which is what's happening at the moment.
Councillor Coleman.
If Councillor Statham agrees, I would actually like to change it a little bit. Are you happy to listen?
Absolutely happy to listen.
So I would like to change it that the Lithgow City Council work with Portland Tidy Towns to deliver a new set of play equipment in Savile Park, which is council-owned land. I'd like to change it slightly.
I can't accept that, Councillor Coleman, because they don't have to deliver it. We're going to be paying for it. There is no cost to council at all whatsoever. Only in the event that later on there is money lobbied through perhaps state government or another fund for parking, for parks and gardens. But at this stage in time, the plan for Portland Tidy Towns is a small area, not where services are, so it's going to be exhausting and expensive. Probably, 15 metres or 10 metres by 10 metres at the most to start a set of swings. So not to deliver, council, we don't want council to deliver anything else but the insurance to cover those
So
swings.
perhaps I take the word deliver out and they work with Tidy Towns. Because that's what your intention is, isn't it, Councillor Statham?
That's correct.
So that Lithgow City Council work with Portland Tidy Towns in regards to a new set of play equipment in Savile Park.
Councillor Coleman, have you read my recommendation? Because
Yeah,
it's
I
already
have.
saying that, so I can't accept what you're saying because I've already got that we want to have an association with Lithgow City Council, an opportunity to commence a partnership with Lithgow City Council. If the land becomes available, Portland Tidy Towns would apply for funding in addition to the funds already Tidy
Mayor, are
Towns
we
can
able to
provide. The only
get this?
cost to
There
council...
seems to be a
No, that's fine. She's
cross-moving.
happy not to
I have a
accept it.
potential amendment that I want to move.
Yeah, that's fine, but I still have the microphone. She hasn't accepted, that's fine. I'll listen to the rest of the debate, but I still have questions in regards to the asset management plan. Where is that? You refer it to in the management comments, but I haven't seen one, and I've made this statement several times. There's a statement that is made that the equipment is inspected weekly. Is this the standard timeframe for each asset within the group? That's why I'm constantly bringing up about where is the asset management plan. But I'm happy to second it still, and we'll just watch the debate. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to pose an amendment, if I may.
Yes.
I'll read the amendment, hope I can get a seconder. That Portland Tidy Towns meet with council to discuss all the relevant matters in relation to this issue. If I get a second, I'll explain the reasons why.
Second, Councillor.
Mayor, I see and I see the intent. I haven't got a problem with the intent, but then I must acknowledge the second part of the management comment when it talks about Portland Tidy Towns working with council to identify existing assets and that require renewal or replacement. Because based on the motion put by Councillor Statham, she's saying that a lot of them are dated and then they need issues. Well, I don't know that, so I think the sensible thing to do is for Lithgow Tidy Towns and Council to sit down and talk the issues through.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm just concerned about the words request for an area of land adjacent in the top line of the recommendation. That's a bit loose for me. Is it a lease? Is it to be set aside, made available? Just what's the legal position on this phrase?
Point of order, Mayor Thompson. My understanding is we're talking on the amendment at the moment, not on the original recommendation.
I always thought you were able to speak on items both for or... Anyway, it's a question.
No, I'll accept that, Councillor Leslie. Go ahead.
Well, basically, it's just a question. Perhaps the mover or the general manager could answer. Just the phrase "request for an area of land." I mean, what is the legal position here? Is it a lease? Is it set aside? Does it still remain with council? Does it become part of the Tidy Towns? It's I like the idea. I just like a bit of clarification.
I'll get the clarification that from Mr Muir, is it?
Mr Mayor, I can provide a comment. I can provide a comment. Mr Mayor, yeah, that's one of the central questions, and that's, I think this is a good idea for the local community to revolve money back to that village. But the report says we know little about the detail of this, the cost of the asset, the cost of maintaining it, the appropriateness of it. We were very encouraging of sitting down with Tidy Towns to work through it. But we don't have all the critical detail at this point.
Anybody like to speak on the amendment? Thank you, Councillor Ring.
I wasn't going to support the original because I believe it is ad hoc planning and decision making at its best or worst. We've already experienced this in Portland with the removal of trees and work that was done, lack of consultation, lack of planning, and then an afterthought we put in new bins. I've always advocated that we need to have proper planning in place. There's more than one community group, there's more than one stakeholder. There are a raft of issues to be discussed. You already have the rotunda in this area, you have the new sports facility going in for the touch football, you have a toilet block which needs desperately to be replaced. In discussions I've had with businesses in the past, they'd like to see picnic tables. There are good swings at the park just up the road. I think the community needs to have more input in what they would like to see, not just one small group. I'm happy for the council to discuss this with the group. It can come back to council, but I think we need, as a council, to improve our planning, to look at assets, to look at everything that's on the table. It's not just responding to one group, it's looking at all the groups. Is a play area suitable there or appropriate? What about the next group that says, well, they've got something there, we want something? We need to be more informed on how we plan our outdoor areas and our resources moving into the future.
Councillor Smith.
I like the concept, but I'm a bit fearful of now they're going to put the new touch shed down near the pool. I'm a bit fearful of where will the touch players park and where will the swimming people park. I think it's a great idea, Councillor Statham, but I'm fearful of that area that I've always known when we played touch out there, that was where they parked. I know where Councillor Statham's saying where it's got to go, but we're going to take away parking, it's more on the street, and then they're going to have the touch football shed there. But like Councillor McAndrew said, tidy down, sit down with council, and surely they can come to a very good resolution.
Any other, I shall put the amendment then. Those in favour?
No.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Goodson.
Yeah, sorry, I was, I'm like Councillor Statham, I'd love to see our green spaces right throughout our local government area scattered with play equipment, shade sails, seats, trees, barbecues, all of it. I think that a lot of our community spaces are desperately lacking any sort of play equipment, but I don't think, I think we've mentioned this at the Operations Committee, I'm not too sure that they're currently undergoing an asset register, getting together all the assets that are in our green spaces, our play equipment for children, and I think that they should be all, put in a register, updated if they need to be updated, and it's good that Councillor McAndrew's put forward that to get Tidy Towns and Council to work together on it, but I'm with Councillor Leslie as well, that the parcel of land's a bit sketchy.
Okay, I shall put the amendment then. Those in favour of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against? Councillor Coleman Statham. I declare the amendment carried. It now becomes a motion. Councillor Statham, do you write a reply?
Oh, yes, I would like to write a reply. Thank you, Mayor Thompson. It's exactly what I expected. They're all viewing tonight. Hello, Portland Tidy Towns. I knew this would happen. It's no surprise. We knew that we wouldn't get this through tonight, so now it'll go to the Portland Foundations. So no problem whatsoever. Thank you for having no faith in what I suggest.
Okay, I shall now put the motion. Those in favour of the motion? Those against? Councillor Statham. Declare it carried. Councillor Statham, bushfire recovery, tip fees.
Well, as every notice of motion I ever put in except for one, it gets amended, amended and amended. So they can go ahead and do what they like as long as I've done my part.
Sorry, can I get a seconder, please?
I'm happy to second it for the purpose of debate.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman. Sorry, Councillor Statham, go ahead.
No problem whatsoever. When people come to you as a councillor, we are voted on to do what we can for the community. I don't seem to have any luck at all in the chambers. I've done what I'm supposed to do as a councillor. It's written in front of you what I have requested. Fortunately for me, it's no surprise to have my notices of motion not carried through. So I have got it very clearly written what my notice of motion is, and I think that people like Nick Alexander and his wife and his daughter Jessica, wife Susan, they're still reeling from losing their homes. They're not the only people that have lost their homes, but they ended up having to pay $1,300 excess landfill money, and I think that it is a disgrace. We have a lot of funding from the government for bushfire victims, and this is one thing of goodwill that could possibly give Lithgow Council some reputation regarding the recent bushfires.
Councillor Coleman.
Yes, Mayor Thompson, I support this in principle, and we should be in a better position to help those 12 months later or even more so. My concern is that we've got to the point where we don't actually have any money to help. these residents. And my other concern is that we don't actually own the facility. Henry Plant's equipment hire did up until that point. I'd actually like to see a report come back about where the money was actually spent. I mean, it'd be nice to know where the money that we were given for bushfire recovery actually went. Just making that point.
Mayor, I've got a number of comments and a number of questions, and aside from what Councillor Statham may have said, I haven't made my mind up on it yet. In fact, I'm leaning towards supporting it, but I need to understand a number of issues. Through you, Mayor, I have one question first up of Councillor Statham, then I have some questions of staff. Councillor Statham, in her commentary, talks about a quota. What's that about?
Oh, I don't think it should be up to me to reply to that.
Well, it's in your note.
It's a-
No, I
yes,
need
but
to
I've already
understand.
spoken once. You're only allowed to speak twice. I've got right of reply. It is a council. So, Mayor Thompson, could you please get staff to answer Councillor McAndrew's
Mayor, I
question.
have the right to ask the councillor through you because it's the councillor's notice of motion has a commentary in it. I need to understand what the councillor means by a quota. I've
Certainly.
never heard of it before.
Right. Well, if you read what it says in my notice of motion, clearly,
have.
Councillor McAndrew,
I have.
they had used the tip on a number of occasions and were not charged. And then they took several loads, which added up to $1,302.60 to the tip, and were told they had to pay that amount of money. That's what they paid the contractors. And they were furious. And it's not just these people. These people here are representing several people from Dargan that lost their house. Now, a lot of people had trees taken down and they got to the
Yeah.
tip and they were accepted with no fee, which was amazing. But then all of a sudden, the game changed. And this is a lot of money, $1,300 after
Yeah,
losing everything you own, everything in the house, everything around the house, and the house. And importantly, in this particular instance, Mr Alexander was fighting to save other people's homes when he got word to say his own home had been destroyed. So $1,300 out of
Yeah,
the
no, I
bushfire-
understand that. I simply asked the question what the quota meant, so I'm not sure I got it answered, but I think I may
It
have.
just says in the commentary, Councillor Statham, that the quota had expired. Was there a quota down there that they could take so much, or?
Yes, but why was this not informed to people via email, a text message, anything to the residents that would have had excessive land? With the amount of money that we're paying now for somebody to look after this particular recovery, why wasn't the residents told, find another alternative way of disposing of your trees and rubbish, or you're going to encounter a large tip fee? I'm not necessarily blaming council staff here, but this is the reaction of what's happened to people that have lost their
Well,
homes.
therein leads to more questions by myself, Mayor. This issue of bushfire waste, to my knowledge, has probably been discussed, or the cost of getting rid of bushfire waste by residents affected, probably been discussed at 3 different councils. And I thought that all costs for fire-affected residents would be either sorted by the contractor, Lend-Lease, Lang O'Rourke, at the time, and/or any other rubbish, bushfire-related rubbish, as long as it wasn't contaminated. I make that point very clear. As long as it wasn't contaminated, that they would have the opportunity to dump it out tip for no cost. And I look at the bottom of page on the management comment on page 9 of 71, and I quote, Henry Plant and Equipment Hire were requested to treat loads of uncontaminated bushfire waste other than subject to the coordinated clean-up of coordinated by Public Works, that's Lang O'Rourke, as residential waste and not charge accordingly. Why were they charged? That was the decision that Council took back in the 23rd of March last year, and I thought that was clear. Can I have from staff, or get an understanding why those people, which would include, I take, the Alexanders, were charged to take waste and debris from the fire to our landfill and were charged? Can I try and get an answer to that, please?
Mr Muir, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, my understanding is that those property owners that registered under what was known as the coordinated clean-up, which we refer to Lang O'Rourke, and Public Works Advisory. They were able to arrange for their material to be free of charge. And I am aware of other local government areas who had control of their tips, were able to do some deals in that regard. Unfortunately, in our case, the tip operation wasn't under council's control. The tip operator at the time believed it had a right to charge these fees as commercial waste. The council staff, I suppose it's fair to say, didn't agree and reported it to council. The resolution was obtained and the request was made that we believed that council was of the view that those loads of waste should not be charged. However, that was something that the contractor believed they were able to do.
So, Mayor, if I could just one final comment. Based on the response, it's my view that in March last year, this council made a decision that genuine bushfire waste dumped at our landfill should not have been charged. That's what I sit with. I understand we could only request, however, I know what the intention of council was.
Mayor Thompson, if I may ask a question for you to Mr Muir. Was there any provision in the contract or legal agreements at this time that would have allowed council to direct Henry's not to make these charges?
I guess that goes back to the heart of the problems we had with the contract. Was one of the drivers that took us to the actions which you had to take. The contract was of such an age and that it was open to interpretation and consequently not enforceable.
Yeah, thank you. If I may, Mayor Thompson, I've known the Alexanders for a long time. They ran the cafe at Hartley. I've had lots of discussions with them. We have dealt with it in the past, and it's been made clear to all councillors that we did not actually receive these charges, nor did we enforce these fees. It's really unfortunate that this has occurred, but it does show why we have now got the tip under our control. So this can't happen in the future. I can't support the amendment because as a council, we have our own difficulties. We treated with all residents in good faith. We requested the operators of the tip to not make these charges, and they did. And that's unfortunate, but there's not a lot I see we can do.
Any other commentary?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very unfortunate for this family to have to pay that amount of money. My understanding was that if they registered for the bushfire clean-up and they cleaned up before Lang O'Rourke were issued by the state government to do the clean-up, so if any resident did their own cleaning up before that announcement, that they could claim back any costs that they've incurred. Would I be able to ask Mr. for comment on that? McGrath, sorry.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, so the coordinated clean-up that Councillor Goodsell is referring to was not administered by council, as you know. It was administered by the Public Works Advisory through Service New South Wales. And residents were advised, well, we helped actually make it known, that residents were advised that they needed to register with Service New South Wales to be included in that clean-up program, which was due to be completed by the middle of last year, 2020, end of June. And if people had undertaken clean-up prior to that, then they needed to actually work with Service New South Wales to see if they could recover the cost. But we basically weren't involved in the coordinated clean-up. All we were doing was receiving information, statistics, results, sometimes weeks and weeks later. So while they were in that coordinated clean-up mode, Lang O'Rourke were given a brief by the state government, and my understanding is that not every part of destroyed land or vegetation was included in that clean-up. They were given a brief from the state government that people were allowed to clean up destroyed residences, including asbestos-contaminated material, burnt trees and logs and so on that would prevent access and egress to the property, and other safety issues connected with the burnt vegetation. But it wasn't a carte blanche clean up. Every shrub, stick and twig on the property would be cleaned up through Lang O'Rourke's contract. They had a limited budget, of course, and the state government or Public Works Advisory were overseeing that.
I would hate to see this family have to pay that money. I don't know how we go about it. It's clearly not council's responsibility. It's Henry's Plant Hire have thrown their weight around here.
Look, there may be some way around this. I'll just get the General Manager to make a comment.
Oh, Mr Mayor, I think it's a good discussion, and clearly it was council's will that these residents, to the extent that they could provide evidence that it was bushfire-related damage, would have their fees waived. So at a point, if we were running the landfill, we said it could be placed in the landfill and at no cost, because we weren't able to enforce that on a contractor. Council requested it, but the contractor declined that. The only option now is to spend our limited funds to receive those wastes for nothing. I think a way forward might be to, and we've got good connections out through the community with our community recovery officer, is to put a call out and just sort of feel how many people feel affected by this, and from that we can look at the evidence and start to scope what this would cost. So I think we should do that. I think we should ask people to come forward if they feel aggrieved. And across all of this, I say, and of course I know the council recognises that the council gave unbelievable assistance, but you've asked us to go a bit further. So I think we try and tease out these people, how many people there are and what their claim might be. Let us find our way through that, and we'll get a magnitude for the subsidy, because the subsidy will have to come from the whole community. We'll get a magnitude of that and bring it back to council.
Mayor, I'm happy to move that as amendment, as long as, if the amendment gets up, as long as it comes back to report to council for it to be dealt with.
I'd be happy to second that. I'd be happy to second that amendment.
So if I understand what the amendment is, that we understand there's an issue, and I congratulate Councillor Statham from bringing the issue to our attention. We understand there's an issue, but there could be others out there as well. So what you're saying is that we go out to the community and see how many are affected, similar to the Alexanders. I'm happy to move that amendment.
Councillor Leslie has a question.
One question there, Thompson, if I may. Would the General Manager believe that we would be able to seek some financial assistance from the state government? Or could we pursue that as well?
I'm certain we'll be trying.
We'll definitely go down that road for sure. Anybody else like to speak on this? Councillor Leslie?
I'm uncomfortable with this amendment. I believe that we either believe that the Alexanders are right and we agree with them, or we don't. But I don't believe that we should just be checking out to see how many other people and then deciding whether we're going to, go with it or not. The particular motion we have here in front of us is very specific to the Alexanders, and we should be dealing with that specifically. Now, if we do agree that the Alexanders are right in their thing, then of course that does set a precedent for others. But we can't go around and decide, well, let's just work out what it's going to be and then make an in-principle decision. I think that's totally inappropriate.
I'd like to speak against the amendment too, Mayor Thompson. There's ways around in regards to the financial aspect of this. I mean, if you look at the finance report, we're not there yet, I understand that, 10.4, it mentions on page 45 the 250k Bushfire Community Recovery and Resilience Fund operating grant. I mean, possibly the funds could come out of that. Is that a possibility? Maybe we could look outside the box for these particular people? I just want to make that point.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that bushfire, well, all of the bushfire grants, we had 1.4 million from the federal government, and the 250,000 under the natural disaster arrangements was all committed and spent by the end of December last year.
Why we need a report back to understand where it went.
You'll find a report in the June council meeting of last year of how that 1.3 was spent, the whole lot of it in the June report. Was it June that you gave me this afternoon? Yeah, I think so.
Can I just make the point, Mayor? The amendment is not saying that the funding may be available. I think what the General Manager put forward and the amendment that's been put forward, we need to see if there's other people's affected the same as the Alexanders. So yes, my view is that the Alexanders have a case, but equally there could be others out there that have an equal case.
Okay, any other commentary before I put the amendment? Okay, I shall put the amendment. Those in favour of the amendment? The amendment now becomes a motion. Do you want to write a reply, Councillor Statham?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Firstly, Councillor Coleman, in her opening remarks, said we don't have any money to give them, quote unquote. We may not have any money to give them, but in this here, it said the bushfire funding grants to cover the cost of tip fees incurred after the quota expired. The residents were not informed of the quota. They were in fact advised all debris would be accepted free of charge. So if in the event when Councillor Ring said in his comment that, you know, once the quota was up, it was up, well, then why didn't council staff or someone send...
Point of order.
She's made
and she made a comment. Councillor Statham made a comment that I didn't actually make. It was Councillor Ring that made the comment, not me.
Yes, my
That said
comment
we
was
don't
purely
have-
about the
It wasn't
funding.
me that said it, Councillor
That's right.
Statham.
Well,
it was Councillor Ring.
I apologise then, I've got written down Councillor Coleman. Anyway, the bottom line is what Councillor Leslie has said is absolutely correct. We're here to talk about the Alexanders. I've not been approached by any other person at all whatsoever. So the Alexanders may be the only ones. There might be dozens of them. But these people went in goodwill to the tip and then found that they had a fee. Now, as they said, they would have made other arrangements, if at all possible, if they knew that fee was going to be $1,300.
I shall put the amendment. Those in put the amendment yet? I have. I shall put the motion now then. Those in favour? Those against? Councillor Statham, Councillor Leslie. Notice of motion, Councillor Statham, Bush Telegraph, Megalong Valley.
Happy to second it.
Thank you, Councillor McAndrew. I visited the Valley just recently on the request of the Bush Telegraph Committee. They've got, their actual name is Megalong Valley Community and Landowners Association. It's one way in and one way out. It's a very simple notice of motion. I'm very pleased to see the management's comment. Thank you very much for that support. Very simple, read the recommendation, and I think that it should be really just something that councillors just agree to write to the Honourable David Elliott, Minister for Emergency Services, and our local, and of course Paul Toole, our Minister for Regional Roads. The project's very detailed in the commentary, and it's very simple.
Yeah, Mayor, very, very happy to support. I understood that we have already given an indication of support in relation to some issues there. I'm not sure. But anyway, in saying that, I support the recommendation, the notice of motion put by Councillor Statham. It's worthwhile and it needs to be supported.
Mayor Thompson?
And,
on that?
yeah.
The Councillor McAndrew is right. We did write a letter of support. That was for a mobile tower, and it's the basis. It's on that basis of that tower going on in that this request has come through. Look, yeah, I totally support it. If there's funding available, it's not the only community with this problem. We have Walgam, we have problems in Capity with communication. Anything that improves the safety of our residents is well deserved.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Thompson. I also believe that we should send this notice of motion to the Blue City Mountains Council, the Blue Mountains Council. Megalong Valley straddles both the Blue Mountains Council and Lithgow Council, so I think this should go to Blue Mountains Council for them to adopt, and a letter to Trish Doyle, the member of the Blue Mountains. I think that we get support across the political divide would only help the residents down at Megalong Valley.
Thank you. Any other? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Building development. Item 10 on the agenda. Somebody like to move?
Happy to move.
Happy the second.
Who moved it? Councillor Goodsall? And Councillor Ring? Councillor Goodsall?
I think this has just come to council because it's council property. It'd be lovely to see this get underway and finally get the Lithgow Library back to how it used to be.
Thank you. Councillor Ring?
The concept as discussed in the documentation is quite good. I believe we'll end up with a much more attractive facility. There was only one minor problem in the Statement of Heritage Impact, and that's incorrect map at Appendix B. Doesn't change the content, but yeah, I have pointed that out to Mr Muir. But I think it is a good report, and I totally support it.
Thank you. Any other commentary?
Yes,
Councillor Ring?
yes, Mayor
Councillor
Thompson.
Leslie?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I noted in the policy implications, Lithgow Community Participation Plan, just let me read it. The development proposal was not subject to public exhibition or notification in accordance with the provisions of this plan as detailed in the Planning Assessment Report in Attachment 5. I raise this matter because an item to come to us is the Community Participation Plan. Now, let me just anticipate what I want to move there, which is that the council notify all adjoining owners of any development or change of usage where the council is either the owner of the property involved or the council is the instrumentality undertaking the work either directly or by contract. Now, clearly, Lithgow Council is the owner of this library, and I believe that whilst in this particular case, it hasn't been subject to public exhibition or notification of, I think it should have been. Now, I accept that the rules have been followed, so there's no criticism of council staff or council's operation on this matter. But it's, and I certainly won't be voting against the recommendation, but it's just an example of what I'm hoping to move it later on, so that items like this are dealt with slightly differently, because as the owner, we should be notifying the neighbours of the property. If it wasn't something, if Lithgow Council didn't own this property, then you would hope and assume that the owners of the property would themselves be notifying this. Let's say it was a private library or something, then it's another matter, and they're the good neighbours. But we should always, see when we're the owner, we should be acting as good neighbours. But this is just a perfect example of changes that I believe need to be made for the Community Participation Plan.
Thank you, Councillor Leslie. Councillor Statham.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Look, the proposal has been designed around the heritage values of Main Street and that particular building. I think that's going to be a very welcome experience for anybody driving through or walking down the street. I can't imagine anybody now objecting to the aspects of this proposal. It's going to fit in with the structure of the building and, also comply with the heritage requirements.
Any other commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Item
Happy
10,
to move, Mayor.
Happy to
1.2.
second.
Move Councillor McAndrew, seconded Councillor Goodsall. Councillor McAndrew.
Thanks, Mayor. You'd recall that I called this matter in going back some time. It's a very good report from our staff. The recommendation for refusal is quite clear. Insufficient information, traffic generating characteristic, Transport for New South Wales RMFs has not given support to the proposal. Impact of the development on the amenity of the surrounding locality cannot be determined due to the lack of sufficient information, and insufficient details have been submitted in support of the development, and approval of the development due to deficiencies identified in the application is not in the public interest. And I go further, Mayor, to say that there's been 12 submissions opposed to the development application, so I support the recommendation for refusal.
I also support the recommendation for refusal. How can you possibly determine a DA if there's insufficient information from the applicant to make a full assessment?
Any other commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour of the recommendation? Carried unanimous. Thank you.
Happy to
34 lot residential.
Happy the
I'll move
second.
that.
Who moved it? I'm sorry.
Councillor Smith.
Councillor Smith. Seconded Councillor Ring. Councillor Smith.
This has been a long drawn-out sequence of events for the developer. I know they've gone out of their way to satisfy 95% of the residents out at Lithgow. It's it's called progress, and it's thoroughly looked at, and I agree with the commentary by the management.
Councillor Ring.
In speaking to the property owners, they have nothing but praise for the staff who wrote the report and have been dealing with them the last 12 months. I think the proposal is good for the community. There is a demand for this type of blocks. The actual proposal is going back to the original plan, and I think it's well worth supporting. I think it should go ahead. It's taken quite a long time to get to this point. There's been 3 public exhibitions. I think it's time we endorse this and move on.
Mayor, I support the proposal as well, but with a couple of questions. I'm just saying is that the General Manager at the beginning, when he read out the submission from the person concerned in relation to this item, does that have to be included in the now that we've got the report? I'll be guided by you and the GM.
Well, I was just going to say, councillors, do you want Mr. Muir to address any of the items?
I think appropriately for the person that made the submission, Mayor, I think that would be appropriate. I think that would be fair. I do have some questions after, though, Mayor, not associated with that.
Mr. Muir, have you got a copy of the transcript?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 3 points, the first one is a comment that at Wangcoal Creek, there's a habitat of what the traditional name is the purple copper butterfly, and because of that, and there has been sightings of the butterfly, the development will have an impact. Looking at all the information, I can find both the mapping of the location of Wangcoal Creek, the information of the application, the statement of environmental effects. The Wangcoal Creek is situated some distance away from the development. The real issue is in the application or the assessment thereof, has there been any suggestion that on that, what is basically cleared land, there's any habitat of what's known as the Bosseria plant, which is the habitat of the butterfly? There's nothing there to suggest that. In relation to 2 other points, the second one relates to the change of rate category to rural. Not aware that really what that relates to. The development application has no relationship to rate category, so consequently it's just not relevant for the assessment. And similarly, number 3, where it talks about the development for this sort of development, all over the area, it's sitting vacant, basically saying there's already, I suppose, an oversupply of land over demand. Those sort of issues are risks for developers and not relevant to the DA process. So,
If Mr. Muir would just remain, I just have 2 quick questions. As I said, I've read the report and I think it satisfies a lot of the issues and I'm supportive of it. There's only 2 questions I have. I recall at the site meeting there was issues about ingress and egress from the development, in other words, in and out, but I think I think I stand to be correct, but page 20 at the bottom, I think with 5 of the lots now with direct access to Maddox Lane, I think that relieves some of that issue. And if I get a comment on that, and the other question is the lack of community recreation space, emergency access and nature strip. Can I just, it says the applicant is not obliged to include, but can I just get a feel from from Mr Muir how we're dealing with that issue as well?
Thank you. In relation to the access, there's probably 2 issues there. Firstly is, yes, there will be less allotments gaining access from that point that comes off Ian Holt Drive. I also understand there had been further consultation with RMS due to the proximity of that intersection as well, so that seems to have been well and truly satisfied. In relation to the open space, there are calculations done which relate to not only the council's overall open space and recreational needs study, but also the common calculations for open space based on population, which in this case, particularly when we're talking about large lot residential subdivision, are not significant, and it would not be, I suppose, appropriate to have a large a pocket park or something within the subdivision. So the solution in this regard that has been struck is a contribution by way of a voluntary planning agreement to go towards community facilities. And the intention would be more local community facilities. So one suggestion, of course, has been the tennis courts at Lithgow. That might be something. Yeah.
Mayor Thompson, could I please ask Mr Muir a question? Thank you. Mr Muir, are you quite sure the RFS will grant, they've granted conditional approval at the moment? And you have here, however, at the time of the preparation of the report, due to technical difficulties, a revised approval has not been issued by the RFS. Following discussion with the RFS officers, it is anticipated that a revised conditional approval for the proposal is forthcoming, with conditions consistent that previously issued on the 7th of March 19.
Yeah, no, it was a relevant question for me. It was something that I spoke to the staff about, who then got in further contact with RMS. It seems as though there has been some sort of miscommunication in some way, shape or form, and there wouldn't seem to be any doubt whatsoever that it's just the formality that comes.
I'm pleased to hear that, and congratulations to Damien Sims for the outstanding work. I know the owners of this land, and they were very delighted with his hard work.
Thank you.
Lachlan.
Yep.
I've got a question for Mr.
Just in case, just before, any other council
Sorry,
comment?
Lachlan Sims.
Any other council commentary? Councillor Smith, right to reply.
One question I'd like to ask, in the word of transparency, has this developer been made aware of the sewer headwork charges, and will he have a figure on the paper?
My understanding is the figure won't go on the paper, but those discussions have been held with the developer and the council staff to give an, I suppose, an understanding of what the contributions will be, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Those against? Councillor Leslie. We move to 10.1.2, a community participation plan.
I'll move that, Mayor Thompson.
Happy to second.
Move Councillor Statham, seconded Councillor Coleman. Councillor Statham.
It's a detailed report from Christian Matthews. No, I don't have anything to report other than have read the commentary.
I just have a question. When's the next flood mitigation meeting going to occur? I understand this is part of this process. Do we know? When's going to get a report back from the consultant on regarding that issue? Do we have a answer for that?
General Manager's going to provide a memo.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Mr Mayor?
Yep.
I'd like to move an amendment that at point 3, that council notify that we include this in the Lithgow Community Participation Plan. The council notify all adjoining owners of any development or change of usage where the council is either the owner of the property involved or the council is the instrumentality undertaking the work either directly or by contract. And just before I speak to that, could I just comment that the the heading of this particular one, Economic Development Environment, General Reports, is extremely vague. Every other report actually gets something quite specific to the matter, such as, you know, water subsidy, Portland Pool. And should anyone want to check this out later on, well, it'll be extremely difficult to find in any business paper. So I would like to see that matter be corrected also in the minutes. But speaking to my amendment.
Yeah, I'll have to get a seconder first. Oh,
Thank you.
oh, hang on. I'll have to listen to what it is first before I get a seconder, I suppose. You
I
might
didn't-
want to second it.
That's the amendment I'd like to move, that point 3. In speaking to it, this is something that's quite personal to me, and I refer to the way that my mother was treated by this council when they installed a sewage pumping station on her boundary at Southbound Fells. Council documentation at the time stated that a letter drop box was considered sufficient sufficient notification. And of course, that particular sewage pumping station is quite a disaster there. It's leaked. It has leaked into my property. I'm very pleased to see that this matter will be inspected by council staff in the near future. That's excellent. But since it was a council construction, the council should have been a good neighbour. You know, if you own a property and you want to, you know, put up a second story or a swimming pool or something, then good neighbours tell their neighbours, tell the people, and they get involved, and so everybody in the areas, you know, hopefully can remain harmonious. Well, if council just comes in and does things without notifying the neighbours, then of course this doesn't happen, and it happened in Southbound Fells in this particular circumstance, because it should have been put somewhere else. The road coming down to it should have been constructed in a better way, but there was no opportunity for the neighbour, the council's neighbour, to be notified, and it's just wrong. It should. You know, we live in the world where somebody has to be responsible, and if your neighbour doesn't do it, well, you understand that, and you can be cranky, whatever. But we shouldn't get the position where people can start, you know, blaming the council, you know, because they did something next door and you're not notified. It's a very small matter, but it's just a procedure, and it can't happen that often. But I believe it should be included. So I would move that.
Can I?
Yeah, I'm happy to second it, Mayor.
Yeah, seconded, Councillor McCann.
Oh,
Who seconded? Councillor Goodsall. Okay, Councillor Goodsall.
Well done, Councillor Leslie, picking this one up. I think it's adding to the community participation plan. Another example of social justice. We should be notifying all and sundry that we're doing development applications, whether they're homeowners, renters, and particularly if it's council property.
Any other commentary? Okay, I just have one question, if I may, Mayor Thompson, for you to Mr Muir. And just to clarify, in terms of general developments, I mean, I believe the council should be the same as anyone in the community, but what developments generally do not need to be notified? Because I think we should have the same standard as what we apply to the public.
On the page. Applications for, and these are development applications, okay? I'd make that clear with development applications. There are some types of works undertaken by councils that aren't subject to development applications. It doesn't require, they won't require notice if it's what's called exempt development. That's all under state policy. The application is rejected on the basis it's inadequate, unclear or illegible. An application received to carry out alterations for the purpose of fire safety upgrading of existing buildings in conjunction with a fire safety order. applications to strata subdivide an existing improved building, an application involving a boundary adjustment, single-storey dwellings in all zones, providing this does not involve demolition of an existing dwelling, two-storey dwellings on land zone primary production, rural landscape or large lot residential, additions to single-storey dwellings that do not involve adding an additional storey to the dwelling, internal alterations that do not alter the use or class under the Building Code of Australia, carports, pergolas, verandas associated with a dwelling, detached garage or shed associated with a dwelling used in conjunction with a dwelling that does not exceed 36 square metres in floor area or 3.6 metres roof ridge height, located in general residential, low density residential village, environmental management and environmental living zones, detached dwellings or sheds associated with a dwelling and to be used in conjunction with a dwelling that does not exceed 100 square metres in floor area located in large lot residential zones.
Mr Muir, I think that you should send that out as an email because nobody's going to remember all that.
I could, it's in there, it's
Look-
page 15 and page 16 of the plan.
Basically, my point, Mayor Thompson, is council should apply to itself the same standards that we expect from the community.
Yeah.
And if council is doing exempt development, then it's exempt and it doesn't go out in notification. We apply the same standard.
Yep. Thanks, Councillor Ring. Okay, any other commentary? I shall put the amendment then. Those in favour of the amendment? Declared it carried. Councillor Statham, right to reply?
No, it's fine, thanks, Mayor Thompson.
It now becomes the motion. I shall put the motion. Those in favour of the motion? Carried unanimous. Thank you.
No, mate.
Happy to move.
10.2.
Happy second.
to move.
Happy second.
Moved, Councillor Ring. Seconded, Councillor
Got to win some of them tonight,
Smith.
Major.
Councillor Ring.
Look, I think it's a good report. I spoke with Mr Butler the day about it. I believe it's fair and appropriate that funding for this very important community group has to be kept up to inflation. I'm comfortable with going to 40,000 and in the future it being adjusted to CPI. It's an important community facility and it's a hell of a lot cheaper than us taking it over.
Smith.
Yeah, I had the happy occasion to go out to the Wang Primary School Swimming Carnival 2 weeks ago. It's a great facility. The team that are running that at the moment are doing a great job. And with the council, the liaison with that committee, it can only be a great and a better facility down the track. It's a great recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Coleman.
I've had a very close relationship with this particular committee. I know that they've struggled with Lithgow City Council in regards to this issue. They've lobbied a number of us in this room regarding this issue. I'm glad that this is a great outcome. My own children have grown up in Portland and used this facility on a number of occasions, so it's important that we keep it supported and it stays in the committee's hands.
Councillor McAndrew.
I certainly also support this worthy recommendation, Mayor. Just to give some concept to the 35 current and the 40, hopefully, if it's passed tonight, their last water bill for the last financial year was $23,000. So to give you some concept, there's not a lot left over. Now, can I say that this community group they've realised their operating costs. You know yourself, Mayor, that some years ago their two major costs were water and electricity. Some years ago they had solar panels installed and they've dropped their electricity charges down dramatically. So you can see that they're trying their best to run the facility as best they can. I do note on page 25 a number of the dot points, and I just want to touch on a couple of them. The second dot point talks about appointing council as building and recreation facility manager, liaison person between the association and council to smooth and coordinate dialogue on any issues which may arise. I think that's extremely important. Councillor Ring made the point, if they weren't running it, we'd have to. And, we've got to give them every amount of support that we can. I note that they've been concerned at times about the accuracy of the meter reading. So at least with this second dot point, to have that opportunity to continue to have that dialogue and continue to keep a close watch and a close check on the water they're using. And the fourth dot point is good as well, and I applaud the GM and the staff involved. The fourth dot point talks about, and I quote, proceed with a review of water usage charges for community/charitable organisations which use large amounts of water, in brackets, action nearing completion as part of the 2021-22 budget preparation. So I'm glad to see also that this facility, run by a not-for-profit local organisation, who I don't say water's part of their business, water is their business. Without water they haven't got a business. So I'm glad to see, and I look forward to seeing the outcome of that, those negotiations and discussions. And so, Mayor, I think I applaud and thank that local group for continuing to run a fantastic facility. It's our second pool in our local government area. Don't lose sight of that fact. We have two pools in our local government area, one that we take the full freight for, and one that's run by a local dedicated group of volunteers. And I understand certainly in the summer months it's not just a pool, it's a place for young people to come, to talk, to meet, and we all know the importance of that when we've gone through some of the mental health issues over the recent years. So it's a fantastic facility, and we need to support it as much as we possibly can.
Mayor Thompson?
Yeah, Councillor.
Yeah, I'm very pleased that council staff have installed a smart meter. I think this will provide the association with the security and the information required to know what they are using and are not using. And I can also congratulate council, because over the years that I've been on council, we've supported the Portland pool. I believe 100% of the time when they've asked for or requested money. I think it's a great organisation. We're very, very fortunate to have it in our district. And it's not only for Portland, it's for the LGA, but it is amazing how many people from out of town use this facility as well. So I certainly wish them well.
Leslie.
Yes, Mr Mayor, this pool has actually saved lives, which is why it was built, because people were, young children were drowning in various quarries at Portland, and it's been a fantastic pool. I remember as a boy, you could swim at the Small Arms Factory Dam, which was horrible, or you could ride your bike out to Portland and swim there, which was just fantastic. I mean, it's been a great asset to our community. It was part of Blackstone Shire then, of course, but been a great asset to the wider community for decades now. And we have to support them. We have to keep it. Otherwise, we could end up being back where we were with young children dying. It's a wonderful thing.
I'd just like to say, Mayor Thompson, that I believe the appointment of a dedicated staff member to work with the committee is long overdue. And I believe the issues the committee has had with council in the past is probably to a lack of communication or a lack of understanding by council on what they were challenging. I believe this is the best way forward. This is a great report.
Happy to move, but I've got an amendment to it. I want to move it with something.
Happy to second, and I've got an amendment.
We'll see how this goes.
You're going to change the recommendation, is that?
Arnie's I'm going to move it with one slight difference.
Okay. Do you want to hear the difference before you second it, Councillor? Yeah. Yeah. Righto, Councillor Coleman.
So in the commentary, it states that we should continue with the month-to-month contract with SKG until the 1st of July 2021, but it doesn't actually state that in the recommendation, and that's the change I want. The change I want is maintain the existing contract with SKG Cleaning Service on a month-to-month basis up until the 1st of July 2021.
Yep.
Yeah, number 2's the same and number 3 is the same. It's just that number 1.
You happy with that? Do you want to second that, councillor Goodsall? No?
I will then, Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep, councillor Leslie. Councillor Coleman.
Thank you. Look, when you privatise or contract out, it's never good. This is a proven case of the fact that contracting out this cleaning service wasn't the best thing to do. I wasn't here at the time, so I'm not going to go down that path. But we need to provide a service to the rest of the community. We need to ensure that the service is of top value. And clearly, the cleaning service that did get the contract weren't of standard. We need to take responsibility for that, and bringing it back in-house is how we take responsibility for it. This will be employment for the local government area. This gives us flexibility so that we control the management of it, and also good faith with the community. The amount of complaints and commentary in regards to this issue has been ongoing for nearly 5 years. And hopefully this will put a rest to it. And that's why I want the time frame of 1st of July 2021 put in place prior to the next election, because this needs to be resolved now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Probably every councillor at some point over the last four and a bit years has raised concerns about the cleaning of toilets and public halls in this chamber. I mean, it's raised almost every other month or so for the last 4 years. And here we are, and the contract's already run out. I mean, the contract ran out on the 3rd of January 2021. Wasn't anyone listening to the complaints that were raised over all this time?
Mayor, if I could. Mayor, if I could. Well, I've lived with this decision for 5 years. And let me make it plain, I voted against it 5 years ago. I was sceptical of the figures that were presented to that council at that time, and this report proves I was right. One thing I didn't know at that time, and it concerns me, on the bottom of page 27 of 71, I quote, it is under the brief commentary under brief history, it is also worth noting that the tender assessment panel also conducted reference checks for SKG which highlighted some concerns regarding service quality. And I tell you what, as a councillor, I wasn't told that 5 years ago. Coming to the cost and the costings, as I said, I was always sceptical. I was always sceptical back that time about what was being proposed, how cheap it could be done in preference to our own employees. I didn't believe it then, and that's why I'll be supporting bringing it back in-house now. Looking at the financial years on page 28, and yeah, it comes to what effectively means, nearly 450,000 was the true cost that it was costing council even during those contract years, not the 300 odd that was quoted back 5 years ago. The question I've got, I do have some other points, but the question I've got is that I was also aware that certainly in the early years, council was paying for the consumables as well. Can I get an idea of staff that were involved back then, or have some idea what was that the case? Because I don't see the consumable costs being added to certainly the hourly and the cost of having to really look after the contract. So do we know whether consumables were also, certainly in those early days, was that being paid for and supplied by council? Because if it was, then that's a greater cost of what was quoted in relation to the contract.
Councillor, I'll get Mr Edgecombe to reply to some of those questions you asked, especially the first one highlighting some concerns regarding service quality. Mr Edgecombe.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Just regarding the first point, I'd like to make a comment on that. I've read through on probably a dozen occasions the report that was presented to the council initially back in 2015, and that was where I found the information about SKG being where there were some concerns relating to what was it, the service quality at the time. So that was received from one of the references provided by SKG. So it was in the initial report. And the second question that you had was in relation to cleaning materials. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the report presented to you in 2015, that wasn't included, but it has been included in our costings for this report.
Yeah, but my question was, it may not have been included in the contract, but I understand for some time it was that the contract was being provided by the consumables that we paid for. So is there anywhere that we can, can that be ascertained, yes or no?
So you're saying that the contract, we were providing the materials
Yes.
for the contract cleaners?
Yes.
I don't, that is not the case currently. I can't say whether that, Andy assures me that that wasn't the case upon commencement either. Okay.
Can I just say then on, I support bringing it back in-house. The problems I saw with it back 5 years ago, quality, efficiency, timing, all those issues, availability, all those issues have come to bear. Bringing it in-house, we've got the opportunity to the highs and lows in relation to when there's, when we have major events, we can push our council people into it. When there's none or there's lean periods, we can smooth it out. You don't have that with an ironclad contract that has set hours, set times and the like. Cleaning is one of our core, council has a lot of responsibilities. In my view, cleaning is one of our core responsibilities. We're judged by how we look after our public facilities that we're responsible for. That's entirely, and I think over the last 5 years that's been lost. And I think I speak for all councillors in saying that, and it was said earlier, all councillors have been approached with problems in relation, and there would be a lot of times I understand that some of the event organisers of events or even some of our own council staff have gone in and did the cleaning anyway, just so we could get the thing done, so that this report doesn't pick that up either in relation to the times we've had to step up and fill the gaps. So it's 5 years overdue, and I really support that it comes in-house, and it comes in-house as soon as possible.
Thank you, Councillor McAndrew. Councillor Smith?
A lot of this report bothers me as well, that we've been paying around $130,000 extra a year for 4 years. That's over $500,000 above the original tender. Other councillors may not agree with what I've got to say now, but I'm happy that you'll all listen. I don't understand why we're jumping straight into operating this in-house. I understand that there are concerns with the current contract. And if we pass this tonight to bring this in-house, we'll be voting immediately to lose $86,000 worth of more services. More mowing, more maintenance, our pool, library. Nobody knows what exactly is going to be cut, I guess, but, that's the end of the day. We're voting on possibly increasing our service of cleaning and cutting $86,000 out of our budget. I don't understand why we're not going out to tender again, to test the market with a revised service contract with all those specifications in it that Mr Edgecombe's worked hard to give us, with those lean seasons, with the tough seasons. I just think we should be seeing what's out there. If they come back more, then come back to operating it in-house with council and cut the services. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. Just because this contractor hasn't worked out, that doesn't mean we have to lose $86,000 worth of services. I don't think we should bail out on all contract cleaning services just because one didn't work out, and actually I don't even know that it hasn't worked out. It states in the report that there were performance issues, that the tender process highlighted service quality and inaccurate tender price was stated. I just don't support us jumping straight into in-house operation. Our quarterly report states that Council will continue operating efficiencies and savings program for the remainder of 2021. We are fortunate to be taking money from our land bank tonight, possibly, to restore our depleted, internally restricted reserves. We should be trying to maintain services. This is my opinion. I think we should go out to tender first to cover all of our bases. Imagine if we found a reputable contractor with a budget and we didn't have to lose our services. We didn't have to hypothetically close the aquatic centre for 1 day a week. We should demonstrate good governance, transparency. I have no problem with in-house operation, but I'd like to go through the process. And I think we're jumping a step. It might delay things a little bit, but we've been for 5 years with this cleaning contractor. Rather than voting tonight to lose our services, we may get a better outcome, but we might get a better outcome and we can have our cake and eat it too. Why do we suddenly stop giving contractors an opportunity to put their case forward? It also isn't a decision based on performance outcomes and assessments. I've never seen any data on this cleaning contractor's poor performance, where they have failed and where they have excelled. This is a decision we have to make on behalf of the residents and ratepayers. We need to be thorough and we need to be doing all we can to get the best outcome and not cutting services. Anyway, for that reason, I would like to make an amendment to the recommendation.
I'll second that. Oh, well, I can clearly see that where it's heading. Yes, sorry, Councillor Goodsell.
Well, it was one, to just shorten the first point, maintain the existing contract with SKG Cleaning Services on a month-to-month basis. And dot point 2 was for management to review the contract specifications regarding levels of service. And 3, to go to tender for the cleaning contract to test the market with the new contract specifications.
I am. Look, I think it's a very difficult decision for any councillors in this room tonight. As other councillors have mentioned, it's not cut and dry, black and white. First of all, congratulations to Jonathan Edgecombe and the staff for an excellent report. I think it's quite alarming to read the report and see the significant differences in what in-house and contractors can, the difference between it is excessive. However, we cannot afford to take $85,000 out of lawn mowing that is way overdue. We cannot close the pool for a day, as Councillor Goodsell has said. There are many factors that we have to take into consideration, particularly if it's more than a 3-year contract. For me personally, the service quality report was never made transparent to councillors. I find that alarming. The public halls, how many public halls does the contractors clean? Mayor Thompson, could you please answer that through one of your staff members?
Mr Edgecombe.
I believe it's an attachment to the report. There should
There
be
is,
a full
there is,
list of
but-
council halls. And I don't have that list as an attachment in front of me, but...
There was an attachment and I don't
hold on,
believe...
sorry, I can find it. It's just here. Doesn't matter how new technology is, it's still nice and slow. Here we go. Administration office buildings, there were 2. And public halls and theatres, there was the Civic Ballroom, Union Theatre, Crystal Theatre, Wang Memorial Hall and Meadow Flat Hall. So that's
Well,
a
Meadow
total
Flat
of
Hall
5.
has never been cleaned by councillors at all, ever. Contractors and council. My brother does it. So that's totally incorrect. He also does the mowing and we do the weeding. So I think that we need to clarify that, take Meadow Flat Hall off that list for sure. And as far as one of the female people that was on the council cleaning staff, she was an amazing worker. I always had good reports from this lady and she was put on the tar truck, which I think was a very inefficient thing to do to a staff member. But one thing we need to recognise here, which is extremely important, Lynn and Eric Vidler have been cleaning the toilet since I asked them to in 2012 or 13.
Point of
They've never
relevance, Mayor Thompson, this is not relevant to the discussion.
Yes, all right, it's not relevant, that's okay, no problem whatsoever. I think at the moment, as much as I would like to see it go in-house, I think we need to have one opportunity to source another price because what we're going to have to do with in-house if we do this is absolutely upskill a lot of people that we don't have. So where are those people going to come from? We're going to have to obviously employ new people because cleaning in itself is hard work. So I think that we have to really think seriously, looking at the leasing of vehicles and the cost of vehicles. Yes, I would much prefer it to come from in-staff, but can we please just get one quote to compare whether in-staff is going to be viable or whether we have not received, I'm not saying the right information, whether there is a company out there that can provide adequate service which could employ senior staff at council if there were such people that so wish to move on to that contractor.
Mayor Thompson, if I may.
Yeah. I'm going to speak against the amendment. We've sat in these chambers, and this is 4.5 years, and we've had to... Mr Muir must have a list of complaints on his table a foot high. This is services. We've all sat in these chambers and said it's about services to our community. We look back in 2018 and 19, we talk about $86,000 increase. We paid $512,000 then. I don't think it's going to be the charges that it's on this paper because we won't be cleaning our facilities as much because a lot of our facilities like the Wang Oval and other fields aren't getting used consistently as they used to be. So my point is we've battled long and hard, as Councillor Leslie said, Councillor McAndrew, Councillor Ring, is in this current contract that we had, Sorry, Mayor. In this current contract that we had, the grandstands weren't even included in the cleaning. Now, how do we have a contract that's given out to a cleaning company, and we had then, that was initial cost that we had to ring and complain to Mr Edgecombe because, or Mr Anderson, because the grandstands weren't getting cleaned. We've got a beautiful facilities in Lithgow and Wang and Paul and all that. We need it in-house because the management, if it's not getting cleaned properly, the management have the right to kick some butt. And that's what we need to get back to. Everybody in this room sat down and voted for the Henry's contract to come back to council. Maybe there might have been one that didn't.
That was me.
It's running very, very smoothly, and we need to give our management, and it's going to create employment. I don't want to see us sit back. I'm happy for, like Councillor Coleman said, put her resolution in. But we need to grasp this again and create more jobs and keep it in-house.
Mayor Thompson, I believe that you can contract services out if it's done properly. This wasn't. I was going to make the point that Councillor Smith made about the tip. It's valid for this. We didn't. You just can't go out and get one quote. There's a lot of work to put a tender together. I've done them for many years. You just can't go out and ask one person. This is a sizable quote. That would have to be done in accordance with proper procedure. For any company to respond to a tender costs money. We're a council. We have voted here to make decisions. We either vote tonight to bring this in-house or we vote to continue with contracting. I believe the actual cost of doing it in-house will be significantly lower. There are issues that I wish to discuss in the Finance Committee with Mr Butler and Mr Gurney, which I've raised regarding the costings. But I believe at the end, by having these staff work here, we'll get a better service. You'll have more people in the community who can get an entry-level position into council. These people could then work their way through, the same as the people employed in the tip. Someone employed in the tip to operate the machinery could end up on the road crew. Could end up doing a university course, end up a planner with Mr Muir. We are one of the biggest employers in this community. Will we have to train up staff? Well, there's every chance that the staff that have been working for the contractors will apply for these positions. As council staff, we'll have greater control over them to manage poor performance. It can be dealt with more effectively. I believe in the interest of the community, this is the best way to go. We are voted on to make decisions, not always easy. And if we have to make cuts, we make cuts. But I believe the amount of cuts we'll have to make will be significantly less than the $85,000 in this report. And there's been no discussion on where those funds will be cut from. I think it's premature to say there'll be less mowing or there'll be less this. We have a budget process to go through. We have to go out to the community. We have to document what we're doing. Forget standards of service. This is, to me, a very simple question. Do we maintain a contract service or do we employ in-house staff and bring it back on board? I'll be voting to bring it back on board because I believe we need total control. Particularly when it comes to our food outlets like the rec. When we have functions, it has to be up to standard.
Yeah, Mayor, if I could, I oppose the amendment. I oppose it on two main reasons. Yes, we've got some financial challenges at the moment, like many other councils have. And we've had a lot of dialogue about that, and we'll have financial challenges in the future. But you don't do away with one of your core businesses when you're having financial challenges. And I can't, for the love of me, understand this issue about service reductions. Well, guess what? For the last 5 years, we've had a service reduction in cleaning. That's what we've been doing for the last 5 years, a service reduction in cleaning. It's important that it comes back in, comes out our control, we'll look after it.
Thank you. Any other commentary on the amendment? I shall put the amendment. Those in favour of the amendment? Okay, I declare the amendment lost. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. Let's just go through this, shall we? I've been definitely listening to fellow councillors for 5 years, especially the gentleman to my left, regarding the complaints received regarding this cleaning service. It states in the report 272 complaints by phone. I can tell you that that's the minimum figure. That's not the maximum figure. Every single time that I go out into the community, like my fellow councillors, we get complaints about the cleaning contract. I don't believe it's 272. I'd double that right now. Right now, I'd double that. Secondly, cheap doesn't mean better. That's clear in this case. This is our core business, and cheap doesn't mean better. And I'm big on providing services. I'm all about services because I'm big on bringing back services, providing services, because I believe the resident needs to be put at the heart of everything we do. And having our cleaning services, which is a core business, be contracted out, that's not the way to go. In fairness, congratulations to Mr Edgecombe. It is a fabulous report, and thank you. Possibly losing 86,000, possibly. It states in the report, this may mean a reduction in contract cleaning services in the future. May mean. As a council, we will work through that, and we will debate that in this chamber and in the Finance Committee as per, we do. I went through this report in detail. It's time to bring it back in-house. It's time to bring services back to our residents. This is the right path. We need to vote in favour of this.
Okay, councillors, I shall put it. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Water and wastewater report, service plan, section 64
I'll
charges.
move that way, thank you.
I'll
Mayor
second.
Thompson.
Councillor Statham, seconded Councillor McAndrew. Councillor Statham.
Again, a very difficult item to discuss. I would like to make an amendment. I would like to...
Well,
Hang on.
If I can get the seconder.
Can't. No, look, Mayor, she moved sorry, Councillor Statham moved the recommendation. I second that recommendation as written.
Sorry, Councillor McAndrew, then I'll move the recommendation with taking out point 2. If I can please make an amendment, and I'll tell you what that is, if you could then consider seconding it. Thank you. Where it says maintain the current charges in the development servicing plan.
No, I can't second it. You need a seconder before the debate.
Yep. I'll listen to the point to Councillor Statham. I think it was a legitimate mistake.
After much research, dozens of phone calls, hours of time, this needs to be addressed. The current DSP fees and charges for the 3 identified
Okay,
growth
Councillor Statham, you said you was going to change point 2.
All right.
I want to hear that and see if I
Okay,
get a second.
fair enough. Point 2, I would like to omit and add that the DSP plans are superseded by the current document and fees and charges of 50% be reduced on this document. This document.
Have I got a seconder for that?
Oh my goodness, you must love having complaints and going downhill with our local government area.
Councillor Statham,
That's uncalled for.
Yep. Okay, can I go back to the start then? Can I have somebody move the
I'll happy to
recommendation?
move it.
And I will second it as written.
Yep, exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, Councillor Ring.
Mayor Thompson, we have discussed this matter in briefing sessions where I made it very clear, and I've had lengthy discussions with Mr Buckins, with Mr Butler over this matter. I've read 25 DSPs from councils around the state. Mr Buckins has attached with this report the fees charged by other councils. The price that we've actually calculated is based on a government formula for the need per each sewerage area. So they're different depending on the needs. That is no different to any council in the state providing sewer services. This report stands quite well, I think. Now, the issue with this too, this is best practice. And in determining these costs, council is not allowed to work out, well, it's going to cost you $15 million to replace a sewage treatment plant. Oh, we'll get $10 million in government grants. Can't calculate that. We have to base this calculation on the cost of replacing the sewage infrastructure or adding to it. Now, if the developers are not paying for it, then it is the ratepayers. And if we are not, and I'm happy to stand corrected by Mr Butler or Mr Buckins, if we do not ensure that we're managing our sewer and water to best practice, then there's an item, I believe it's in this meeting, about taking a fee from the water and sewer charges. Can't think of the subsidy. That's right. The same as state water pays to New South Wales government. If we're not conforming to best practice, we cannot do that, which means the council will effectively lose and the ratepayers will lose. These charges, when you look at individual developments, can be expensive, but if they're not paying for it, then the residents and the ratepayers have to. So we'll see increased costs yet again. I'm not prepared to see those increased costs. Subsequent to what has come out with this too is that the council staff are ensuring that all developers are advised of costs up front. They are working to improve the communications. I've met with Mr Butler and Mr Muir. Some other councils provide quotes on the cost of development applications at the commencement. I believe this council has taken on board lessons learned recently and are improving customer service, improving the information they provide to developers. Basically, that's it.
Bring Councillor McAndrew.
Yeah, could I firstly say it's been a comprehensive report, and I congratulate Mr Buckins in relation to it. Look, none of us likes paying charges, but I, like Councillor Ring has just pointed out, I've gone through the documentation and it tells me clearly that, you know, what we charge is relevant to similar councils. But what I can't lose sight of, and I want to quote from the report, page 34, and it's the 5th paragraph down, and I quote, in summary, if a council elects to vary the charges as adopted, there would need to be a recalculation of the developer charge and the level of subsidy provided. The amount of the subsidy would then be added to the water and sewer charges, annual charges, increasing the rates paid by every residential ratepayer connected to water and power, connected to water and sewer. And all through the report, it says clearly if we're not if we're not adopting the proper and appropriate charges, similar to what all other councils do, then any form of subsidies will fall onto all the residents and ratepayers throughout our local government area. And a further point on page 35 that is fairly telling, and it's the second last paragraph at the bottom of page 35, should council not receive these DSP charges towards future upgrade and amplification of services, there may be a need to halt development from occurring until the necessary infrastructure has been provided or alternative funding can be secured. And in brackets, the developer or government upfront the cost. It is anticipated that this would see land sterilised and held back from being developed. And I don't think any of us want to see that. None of us want to see that. Look, I know their charges, I know, but to me the report tells me that the charges are reasonable based on other local government areas, and we need to support it.
Anybody? Councillor Goodsell.
Yeah, we've been back and forward over and over and over this. I think it's very simple. The developer must pay for infrastructure services that are necessary for a development to go ahead. No one can avoid it. If infrastructure services are in place, well and good. If they're not, the user pays. And of course, new developments with new infrastructure, it's going to cost the developer more. My question was to Mr Muir was, when is the developer first notified and at what stage of the application? Oh, sorry, Mr Buckins.
Mr Buckins.
Yeah, through you, Mr Mayor. The change in the process actually sees on the actual submission, so on the letter acknowledging receipt of a development application, it is now noted on that the application will be subject to and that an applicant should consult with council as soon as possible in relation to the charge. At that point, they can then make the option as to whether they proceed or withdraw their application.
Excellent, thank you.
Hang on. Can I have a go first?
Councillor Statham first.
Through you, Mayor Thompson. Mr Buckins, you're saying they're now, but that wasn't previous.
No,
so the
that's right.
the four people that are in dire straits, none of them were informed. There was no transparency. There was not even a note or an email to say you're going to incur a fee. They get there and it's gone from 65, which they never knew about, to 180. It's gone from nothing to 60 and nothing to 20. And this is outrageous. It's all right now to inform the people, but Councillor McAndrew is saying that there will be land locked up. Of course there will be. Who's going to want to build at Bowenfells, Portland and Wallerawang, the identified growth areas? I mean, this is a serious, serious, serious situation. I've already know of 3 developers that have gone to Blaney in the last 2 weeks because they are going to sell their land, Bowenfells and Portland, because they cannot now afford to put that fee on top of 7 apartments and 3 apartments. And the one in Portland, they don't care if they go broke. They're not paying it because they weren't given any information or transparency that there was going to be a fee. Had they been given a letter when they first went to the DA, they would have cut back to 2 apartments instead of 3. I mean, these people are families in our local district that have got faith.
Councillor Statham, I think you've had enough at that.
Yep, no worries.
I'll let the General Manager have a...
Oh, Mr Mayor, I just need to say there was a lot of hearsay in that, and there's a whole range of facts which are, quite frankly, need to be told. And with due respect, we need to get out of this business of hearsay and what I've heard and what might have happened. The council has been briefed on this numerous times. I've been briefed on every one of those matters. I say to you, as an experienced planner of many decades, that we're good in this area. And there are fine, subtle improvements that could be made, and they've already been made. They've already been made. By and large, the people that were referred to in each of those hearsay cases are experienced developers. Okay? They're experienced developers, and they know the system, and they could have found the information also. And in many cases, as I've told you previously, they were advised. Yes, the wording on a condition could be different and better, and we've made changes to procedures.
Councillor Smith.
Well, on one of them occasions, I'm going to have to disagree with the General Manager on that they were advised. His opinion to my opinion is a bit different, but the thing we've learnt out of this is that I don't think any councillor picked these drastic increase in fees up in 2019. Not one of us. Not one of us picked them up. So the thing is that I want to see out of this is transparency, like Mr Muir said, Mr Buckins has said, and the General Manager said. We've learned, the council's learned some lessons here. And I know one developer, and he's told me, he doesn't want the ratepayers to pay for it. He's doing the development. But he said, I just don't want to go to the counter and get a $70,000 bill either. I just want to come there and have 85 to 90%, knowing the charges at the very time I submit my DA, and then he's happy to move on. As I said, we've learnt lessons out of this. We can go over this all night. We can't change it. We can't make the ratepayers pay for it. So, another thing, and the General Manager can correct me if I'm wrong, I think with some developers, there's been payment plans offered to developers, if I'm right, you know, come to the end of to get their CC certificates. If it's a big figure, they've been offered payment plans, that's another way to move forward for the council. Look, I don't want to see this massive increase in fees either, but we've got to remember, the state government brings these in. We've got to regulate them the best we can on the size of the council we've got. It's not a good outcome for some developers, but I just want to see the place go ahead. Thank you.
Any other commentary?
Right to reply, please.
No, it's not your right to reply, Councillor Statham, it's Councillor Ringers.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Smith was right. We voted for this document, and as such we own it. The fact that we weren't fully cognisant of the implications on a developer is irrelevant. It's no different to the previous council endorsing the LEP. Once it's implemented, then we find issues. Same with this. Now, I've spent considerable time with Mr Butler, with Mr Buckins, and the developer that Mr Smith is talking about, and at the end of the day, there have been lessons learned. This council is providing the information up front, and it's not consistent across the board. I've looked at a lot of councils. Not every council provides a quote or the fee up front. There are some that do. That is being looked at by this council, which is good. It improves transparency. And with the developer Mr Smith was talking about, I also made it clear that from a legal point of view, it is incumbent upon the developer to know the costs. You have mum and dad developers in the community who expect, because they've lived here so long, they've got a perception of the council of doing the right thing. This time around there was a lot of lessons learned, I believe, on both sides. We need to move forward. We need to put this to rest. The council has learnt. And any professional developer coming here from Sydney, I can assure you, they know to the letter of the cent what it's going to cost them. But the improvements that have been implemented by the administration will assist our community. Someone at the end of the day has to pay for this. When we come to doing upgrades, we may get government grants. We may not. Hell of a lot of money has been spent on bushfire recovery and COVID. In the next few years, we may see very little money floating around. We have to make hard decisions. I think we need to support this and move it forward.
Okay, councillors, I shall put that. Those in favour? Against? Councillor Statham's against. Have you got a seconder for a division?
Well, there is a division anyway.
We record every...
It's recorded, yes. That is. Thank you. Uh, 10.3.2.
Happy to move.
Moved Councillor Coleman.
Happy to second.
Seconded Councillor Goodsall. Councillor Coleman.
Yes, thanks, Mayor Thompson. Look, Mr Buckins should be congratulated on this report. It's really difficult to maintain the water and sewerage portfolio, and he's doing a tremendous job. This report's great. It's bringing it to make sure that we can have an informed decision and all the information is there. I do want to bring the council to something to the attention. On page 41, up 1, 2, 3 paragraph down, it states licence limit for fecal columns is 600 coliforming units per 100 millilitres in exceed result of 6,800 CFU. This failure was a result of a contractor undertaking works on the site damaging a cable to the UV system, and the cable was repaired immediately, but the operation of the UV was not reset. Staff identified and rectified the issue the day the sample was collected. Congratulations to the staff. As I don't want to point it out, but we all know what that really means, and that's a health hazard to our families within this area. And staff should be congratulated on pointing that out and getting fixed. It also demonstrates why contractors aren't always the best to provide services to the community. So congratulations to the staff on repairing it, and thanks to Mr Buckins for bringing it to our full attention.
Thank you. Councillor Goodsall. Any other commentary on the water report? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Oh, Councillor Smith's not here, but... Quarter 2 budget review.
Happy to move.
Happy to second. Not happy, but I'll second it.
Okay. Move Councillor Goodsall, seconded Councillor McAndrew. Councillor Goodsall.
It's lovely to see an improved projected operating result. Well done, Mr Gurney and his team. Can I please ask a question? How do we replace the $652,000 back into the land bank? Do we or don't we? And just the other question, are we're still not fit for the future? How often are we still reporting to the Office of Local Government? Please. Sorry, through you, Mr Mayor.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So the first question, the recommendation there is to transfer $652,000 from the land bank, so that is a one-off transfer. It wouldn't be repaid. There is still a $2.5 million roughly internal borrowing in the reserves to be repaid against the internally restricted reserves. So that is a one-off permanent transfer of those funds and would deplete the land bank accordingly. The other question, the Office of Local Government reporting. So we were reporting on the Fit for the Future improvement plan. There hasn't been any action really on Fit for the Future for some time. We still, the reporting regime has been relaxed to once every 6 months, but we are still reporting twice a year to the OLG.
When will that be lifted, do we think?
Yeah, yes, Mayor. Just very briefly, we have received a comprehensive report on this as an information session. It continues to show that we've got challenges, but we're meeting them as best we can, and it has been picked up. I note in part 4 of the recommendation endorsing the transfer from the land bank. That's not ideal, but that's what councils are needing to do at the moment, and we wouldn't be alone in those type of issues. So it's just a matter of, as I said in the early discussion about another matter, we've got some challenges, and we'll just have to keep meeting them and moving on.
No, I shall put that then. Those in favour? Against? Carried unanimous. People and Services report, Planet Youth report.
Happy to move.
Move Councillor Coleman.
Happy the second.
Seconded Councillor Ring. Councillor Coleman.
Look, Ali Kim should be congratulated in the work in regards she's doing with the youth on this, especially in regards to the local drug action team. It's really making headways with the community, to the point where when I was recently in Gunnedah late last year, Mayor JB Chaffey was very interested in this report and this program for the community of Gunnedah. So if I could get some information sent to me, I would like to share it with with the mayor up there, or if you could talk to him. I understand, Councillor Thompson, you sit on the Country Mayors Association, and I believe Mayor Chaffey sits on that association. But even as far as Gunnedah, they're talking about this program and what great things it's doing within the Lithgow community.
Very good. Councillor Ring.
Just to reiterate, it is a good program. We are one of the few communities in New South Wales to be chosen for the trial. It will be interesting to see the final report that comes through on how it does. Overseas, where it originated, it had amazing effect. And hopefully we'll be able to replicate that in our own community.
Mayor Thompson?
Councillor
Yes, look, I'm a great believer in the LDAT. I think it's an amazing organisation. I think overseas have proved that it's something that's worthwhile trying in any country in the world. And to see what they've got, how they're involved in our local community, I think is very commendable. And I think congratulations to Alec Kim also for, you know, having faith to start this new local drug action team. I think it's very creditable.
Thank you. Any other commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Against? Carried, unanimous. 10.5.2.
Happy to move.
Happy to second.
Moved Councillor Smith, seconded Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Smith.
This is a very good report. There's only one thing I'd like to bring up in, two things. In the Wallerawang alcohol-free zone area, it doesn't say that the Lake Wallace baseball facility, and it is an alcohol-free area. It hasn't got it noted in the report. And after this goes out to the public, when they just change the dates on the signage, because we have a lot of signage within the community, or they change the whole signage? It'd be at an added cost.
Mr McGrath.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The most cost-effective way would be to get stickers made to put across the existing signs. I can check out or notice that question about the Lake Wallace. Okay.
Mayor Thompson, could I ask a question? There's a budget approved of $16,000. You're talking about stickers. What's the $16,000 actually for?
That's a good question. I'll have to take that on notice. Yeah.
Also, through you, Mayor Thompson, to Mr McGrath. In Portland, it looks like we certainly have a lot of free alcohol zone areas, which I think is great. But to me, looking at that, I know those streets, very familiar with them as a lot of other people here would, but it's very confusing. Could it be just a notice in Portland on a couple of street corners to say the areas and make it a block area? It's virtually, you know, 4 blocks into one square. I don't think I'm missing out anything there. It takes to down Villiers Street to Walgan, Williwaw, Coxer Street, Schneider Lane. It's a lot of areas, and if people look at that, I think they'll have to keep thinking, oh, which area is or isn't. I don't know whether there could be some way that could collectively be signposted on the signpost in Portland and possibly another couple of areas in Portland to save all those different street names being erected. I don't know. Just a thought.
Questions to Mr McGrath while he's there?
Yes, Mr Mayor. On page 50, just above the words in bold, Lithgow alcohol-free zone, there's the words, "This report does not deal with the establishment of alcohol-prohibited areas," but the recommendation says, you know, publish a notice of the proposed establishment of alcohol-free zones in these areas. So, could I get some clarification on that? Are there new alcohol-free zones in this or not?
Can I shed some light on that? Alcohol-free zones and alcohol-prohibited zones are two different things. Alcohol-prohibited zones are policed by police. Alcohol-free zones are policed by police and local council.
Thank you very much for that.
Mr McGrath, Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, alcohol-free zones change from time to time over the course of years. We usually put them, or with consultation, obviously with the community and licensed premises and with the police, put them around areas that are significant at the time, which are usually in the main streets. And the reason why they're blocked off on streets is when we have to enforce those laws, that we can identify the exact area that we're going to take to court if necessary. So we don't usually block them off in big areas. We have to have a deemed street that we need to take to court. That's probably basically the reason. So yeah, it's good that we're consulting with the community and licensed premises. It's part of the course.
While we're using your expertise, Councillor Goodwin, are they working?
Yeah, they are at the moment, yes.
Any other commentary? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Uh, 10.5.3 corporate planning.
I'll move that way, Mayor
communications.
Thompson, thank you.
I'm happy to second that.
Move Councillor Statham, second Councillor Goodsall. Councillor Statham.
Well, I think it's an interesting report. You know, I'm delighted to hear new ways to engage with the community were designed and delivered. We will continue to look for new and innovative ways to connect with our rural and remote areas. This experience should equip the city with greater resilience and the council with experience to play a central role in people's lives as they grapple with challenges. And I think over the page, it reads very well. Continue our caring approach to impounded animals. The dog kennel area at the Lithgow shelter was heated in the time of winter, and out of 183 animals impounded, 150 returned and rehoused. In summary, the first half of this opening plan year has been challenging, but council has stayed focused on providing quality services throughout. New practice had to be developed and rolled out seamlessly. Support from other levels of government has been much appreciated, and we are sustainably on track to deliver all funded projects on time. The back half of this year will see attention given to customer service, financial restraint and public delivery. I think it's a very good report.
I'd love to see this go out to the broader community in some way, shape or form. It's the General Manager's comment, and I thank the General Manager for that positive feedback. It's not often we get something like this which sums up, you know, the positives and the things that council staff have navigated in this tumultuous 18 months. He has to give us an update, and I think it's very, very good. And I'm not sure that everybody would read this part in the agenda, the update on the delivery program, but I'd like to see that information get out to the broader community if possible.
Commentary, anybody else? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Council committee reports, Community Development Committee minutes.
I'll move that way, Mayor Thompson.
Happy to second.
Move Councillor Statham, seconded Councillor Coleman. Councillor Statham.
I think the 2020 Ability Awards are something that we were all very excited about. Unfortunately, with COVID, choosing these people, we did on resumes that were placed in front of us. After much deliberation, as Councillor Coleman would know, it was something that we had to put a lot of thought into, because it was really what was written on the submission that got people over the line. But I think it was good that through COVID we were able to continue to give out awards for the Ability Awards and make people feel special in some of the circumstances that they battle with.
Thank you. Councillor Coleman.
I look forward to the 2021 Ability Awards, where we can actually present them in person. Hopefully with the rollout of the vaccine that's going through, we'll be able to have a ceremony than we previously did. Every one of these people deserved this award. It was a difficult process, but I believe that the Community Development Committee came to the right decision, and they worked really hard, and they deserve the congratulations for it.
Thank you. Any other commentary? No, I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Environmental Advisory Committee.
Happy to move.
Move Councillor Ring. Seconded Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Ring?
No, the report speaks for itself. There's nothing to bring to council's attention.
Is there any commentary, councillors?
Yes, Mr Mayor, will we get an update on the savings of the solar panels on the council roof, as not necessarily recommended, but raised in this particular report?
Yep. Mr Edgecombe.
Through you, Mr Mayor. The report, while the solar panels were installed in the latter half of last year, we had some difficulties getting them switched on. We needed some power turned off by Endeavour Energy, which took some time to get approved and actually take effect. So it only got switched on over the Christmas break because we had to plan for some interruptions with our IT equipment and all those sorts of things. So in order to give you guys the level of detail that you would need on that, we would need to wait a few months for the savings to actually be able to be quantified. So I would expect probably in the second quarter of this calendar year, we would be able to provide you with some reasonable information.
Yeah, Mr Edgecombe. Councillor Coleman?
Unfortunately, the last Environmental Advisory Committee was actually cancelled, so I'm wondering if has that already been rescheduled? I'm on that committee. It just at the time, it just wasn't manageable. I understand Councillor Ring had issues and I had family issues and yeah, it just wasn't manageable. So has that been rescheduled?
A date has been rescheduled, Mayor Thompson. Whether or not we can bring it early, I've been talking to Mr Mayor.
Yeah, I think it needs to be brought forward.
If possible, it may be.
Yep. Okay, that'll go out by email, Councillor Coleman. Okay, any other commentary? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Oh, did you? Sorry. Councillor Leslie voted against it.
Happy to move the next one.
Operations Committee meeting minutes. Move Councillor Goodsall. Second, Councillor Goodwin. Councillor Goodsall. Councillor Goodsall.
Yes, sorry.
You're right.
There's two lots of operations minutes, I think, in this paper.
Yeah.
This is the 18th of November. So, yeah, I've got no commentary on that.
Councillor Goodwin. Is there any commentary at all on the 18th of November minutes? I don't know why they didn't come to council. How come they? Can you just check that out, why they didn't come to council, please, Mr General Manager? Yeah. 11.4, TAL Committee minutes.
I'll move that way.
Second.
Yeah.
Oh. We didn't vote on the Operations Committee minutes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, those in favour? Carried unanimous. And now TALC is Councillor Goodwin, and who seconded? Councillor Smith. Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, it's all fairly self-explanatory. Nothing to say.
Councillor Smith.
I can see they've been very busy and there's some good recommendations in there, and no, it seems to be going very, very well.
Any commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried, unanimous. Youth Advisory Committee meeting.
Happy to move.
Happy the second.
Councillor Coleman.
I'm just looking forward to the youth. My understanding is they're going to have a Youth Week program to be held on the April 17th. I look forward to seeing that. Also, I think it's great that there's a drop-in space for the youth. That's a great initiative. I fully support that as well. The Youth Council's doing great work, really is.
Yeah, I think that starts tomorrow, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
At home, is it Hometown Cafe?
Yeah.
Hometown Cafe.
Yeah.
I met the Emily only just recently. She was just an amazing young woman, dynamic, really a go-getter. So it's really good to see. Yeah, but I think the youth program is, I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully we get to go in person. Hopefully we can move past all this COVID stuff.
I've said it before, I believe this youth council's been very proactive and is a credit to the community.
Thank you. Any other commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Eleven point six, Crime Prevention Committee meeting
Yeah, I'll move that.
minutes.
Happy to second.
Moved Councillor Goodwin, seconded Councillor Coleman. Councillor Goodwin.
Mayor Thompson, I attended the meeting and it was a really good meeting to see that the crime statistics have dropped over almost all of the categories. It was discussed at the meeting that over a period of a certain time, probably 2 to 3 months, we're going to disseminate some information to the community on ways to reduce certain crime categories, such as scams. We'll disseminate that through our social media, through the council and through media releases on how to, say, reduce scams in the first one, and then we'll work through our crime category moving forward each few months, just to make people aware of different types of ways that we can reduce crime in the community. So it was a good meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Thompson. Scams, huge issue, especially for our elderly. I understand there was an issue up Hassans Walls Road regarding certain elderly were being targeted, having letters put in their mailboxes. It was a real concern. It was brought to my attention. I don't know if it was brought to your attention, but it's something we need to focus on and protect our elderly. Yeah, well, I know it was in someone else's mailbox. And so we need to be really watching those scams, and the local police force are doing a good job. This particular issue was brought to my attention and they dealt with it immediately and reassured this particular elderly lady that it was a scam and not to fall for it. But the Crime Prevention Committee is a great way of fielding that sort of issues directly with Chris Samet, and he listens to us, and it's a great way that the council and police can interact.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
For you, Mr Mayor, I've got a question for Councillor Goodwin. I notice it says a discussion on drinking of alcohol at sporting events. Has there been dramas or just a discussion point?
Yeah, it was just a discussion point at that stage. I think one of the committee members brought it up. It could have been in relation to the baseball.
Councillors, any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to point out, Mayor Thompson, with COVID, there's been a lot of increase in scamming, internet, emails, telephone, not just the elderly, but across the board. And if you're not careful, it's very easy for anyone to be taken in. So, yeah, the community as a whole really needs to be aware that at the moment, it's rife.
Thank you. Right a reply, Councillor Goodman.
Just further that, something will be coming out in the next month or so in relation to scams through the media and through our websites.
Thank you. I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Against? Finance Committee meeting minutes.
Happy to move.
Move Councillor Ring.
Happy to second.
Seconded Councillor Statham. Councillor Ring.
No, the report speaks for itself, Mayor Thompson.
Councillor Statham.
No, the same, thank you.
Any commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried, unanimous. Community Development Committee meeting minutes.
I'll move those.
Happy to second.
Move Councillor Statham.
The Community Development Committee is a terrific, hard-working, smallish committee, and we have great discussion, we have great debate, and we usually come up with some really quite unanimous ideas. We were shocked on Australia Day that someone did receive a wrong award, and I witnessed that myself with great alarm. It was a mistake. The person involved with that is a hard-working, dedicated staff person, and I think there were several other particular incidents in her life going on at the moment with staff that she had a busy time. But fortunately, the Mayor is going to hold a reception next week, which I think is a commendable thing.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 4 o'clock. A commendable idea. I'm just wondering if it was possible, it may be not appropriate to ask this question now, but one of these people's best friends was there. She's a very close friend of mine. Is it inappropriate to ask one extra lady to support the Quinnells while they're receiving their award?
I haven't got a problem with that whatsoever.
Thank you, Mayor Thompson. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, I have one question, and I know this is Matthew Johnson's baby in regards to community development. Maybe Mr McGrath can help me out in regards to our toilet blocks at the skate parks. Are they coming in now, mate? I know it's near the end of February.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Yeah, look, I think the latest update was when I spoke, I think it was to you, Councillor Smith, last time, they were due at the end of February on the docks from New Zealand. As far as I know, they're still on time.
Thank you. Any other commentary? Councillor Coleman?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Thompson. Anybody who volunteers for this great community deserves an award. Anybody. If you volunteer, whether it's for 12 months, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you deserve the accolades that come your way. Yes, it's an oversight, and no one blames anybody for that oversight. I am very pleased that Mr and Mrs Quinnell will be acknowledged tomorrow, and I'll be very grateful to be there. So I think if you're a volunteer, you deserve everything that comes your way. And I just want to point out that, and I'd also like to thank Mayor Thompson for the mayoral minute at the beginning of the meeting in regards to bullying and harassment. I brought to the committee's attentions in regards to correspondence that I had received in regards to racism and lack of recognition regarding First Peoples, and in result, the mayoral minute was from that. So thank you, Mayor Thompson, for doing that mayoral minute. It did come up at the Community Development Committee. It was discussed there in full, and it was suggested that a mayoral minute be done, and you did follow through. Thank you.
Any other commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimously.
Happy to move.
Sports Advisory.
Second.
Councillor Smith. Second.
If I could, Mayor, I'd like to put a point through. I'd like to thank the council and the Lithgow Cricket Association for putting on. If the councils should be aware, this week the Baggy Blues are coming down. It'll be a great event for our local sporting community, and the council's right behind this. So I'd wonder if we could put that in and duly noted in the recommendation to thank the cricket and the council for their great work on this. There's a dinner, I believe, Wednesday night, and then they're playing Thursday in a 2020 game, so that should be great for it. And as some of our local cricketers have said, the senior cricket, what are they called, the Wildfires, they said to me...
Just before you speak to it, Councillor, are you happy to have that, Councillor Goodwin? Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. Over the weekend, the Wildfires contacted me, and they said we have some of the best sporting facilities in New South Wales, and it's a credit to our council.
Thank you.
Mayor Thompson, I would just like to make one small comment. I think Sonia Cox had the initial instigation to do this, and I thought it was a great idea for her to come up with this initiative. So I think Sonia needs to be, thanked by the Lithgow City Council.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Statham. Yep. Any other commentary, councillors? I shall put that then. Those in favour? Carried unanimous. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mayor. Can I just get get that corrected? It's the Baggy Blues, not the Baggy Greens.
Yeah, you said Baggy Greens. You didn't.
No, I didn't.
Oh. Okay, Operations Committee meeting, 11th of February.
Now I'll move.
You can move this one.
Yep.
Happy the second.
Councillor Goodsall.
I think it's worth mentioning in open council, Mr Mayor, that after a very long delay due to COVID, that council has had a comprehensive assessment carried out on the water mains and in Main Street, and the conclusion was that that our waterman pipes have significant remaining useful life and should not be considered for renewal, which was great news. Also worth mentioning is probably that the water mains, the main to meter repairs and stormwater repairs will be, which may need renewing, will be undertaken during the Main Street revitalisation. They were just some important things I thought came out of that Operations Committee meeting.
Councillor Ring?
Yeah, just to follow on from Councillor Goodsall, there are caveats on the report provided to Council. The indications are that the pipes are good, but with everything, it's in the lap of the gods. So moving forward, the advice on the information we've got are the pipes are in reasonable condition, should not be replacing. And if they do burst, then it is basically an act of God. We should probably get 20 or plus more years, probably significantly more out of them before they need replacing.
Thank you. Any other Councillor Smith?
One item out of there was the monthly update, project update. Some of the commentary wasn't sufficient, I believe, Mr Edgecombe, for you, Mayor. And we're going to get a copy of that. Remember that, Councillor McAndrew? There was projects weren't updated. And one more other thing I'd like to see, which was asked for by Councillor Goodsall 6 months ago, was the mowing program that the council mowing schedule that we'd like to have a look at if we could.
If I could just add to that, it was mowing, maintenance schedule of mowing, whippersnipping and poisoning throughout the high-profile areas of our local government area.
May I add, Mayor Thompson, the cobwebs on the front of the council chambers and the disgraceful weeds at the entrance on the right as you come in. It is not a good look for first impressions.
Any other commentary? Mr Edgecombe, I guess you'll take that on notice. Thank you. I shall put that then, councillors. Those in favour? Carried. Unanimous. Business of great urgency.
I have one. Thank you. Last week, a member of my family passed away. He passed away from bowel cancer, but that's not the reason why I'm bringing it to your attention. What I'm bringing to your attention on the back of that is that from the 1st of March, Greg Hunt will be cutting off telehealth options for remote appointments. So, and this will make lives for chronically ill people so much harder than it needs to be. Telehealth options should remain open permanently, especially in rural communities, especially with those who are terminally ill or those who have disabilities. I think we need to lobby our federal member, Andrew G, and just bring it to his attention that, yeah, I don't think that's a good idea. I think we need that service, especially in rural communities like ours, or regional communities like ours, that have difficulties getting to doctors and getting to specialists and so forth and so forth. I would have done a notice of motion. Mayor Thompson, unfortunately, I didn't get opportunity because of what happened within my family. Thanks.
Look, we will take it on notice, and I'll get the General Manager to draft a letter off to the relative Minister.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I have one. Sorry.
Councillor Smith.
Mayor, as far as I'm concerned, it is a matter of urgency. I know we had a mayoral minute about the nursing home in our area. Have we got any idea when our next update will be from Mr G? Has anybody been in contact with him today or his office, or have we got any further updates since your mayoral minute was put out?
I haven't got any more update, and I know that we have the chair of LAC sitting over here on the left, and I presume that there will be an appeal going in the next few days, or maybe already gone in. Comment on that.
No, I'm prepared to take the risk. We're putting in an appeal against the decision tomorrow. Or maybe Wednesday, but certainly, and it's there. We're hopeful, and should that not be hopeful, then we will be taking further action, hopefully after legal advice with the Administrative Appeals Tribunal.
Further to that, Mr Mayor, I was just wondering, my business of great urgency was to maybe try and have a town meeting with Andrew G and Paul Toole and get everyone together and try and nut this out through a town meeting. I don't know if that's...
Look, all those things are on the table at the moment, but we can't put the cart before the horse. So let's see. I know that the General Manager is in contact with, we've sent a letter off to Andrew G, we've sent a letter off to the Commission, so we'll just wait and see what comes out of that in the next 24 or 48 hours. And we will keep Council updated as things transpire.
Mayor, I just have one item. This side of Marangaroo, the Great Western Highway, where it goes over the railway, there's been an 80-kilometre limit there now for months, showing work undertaken. There's no work being undertaken. It was as a result of some damage to the guardrail going over the railway line. If you could, I think RMS needs to fix it or remove that. There's no danger to anyone. Remove that 80-kilometre restriction. It's very confusing. There's no work. It's misleading. It's showing work ahead, road work ahead. There's no road work. 80-kilometre for that period of time. It's just confusing motorists. They need to fix it or remove the signs.
Yeah, that is a problem. I travel that road, and you get some people pulling up to 80, and some people are still doing 120 or 110 or whatever it is, 100. But yeah, that is certainly a problem. So we'll take that up with the police as soon as possible, with the RMS.
Mr Mayor, I have a thing about the accuracy of minutes, and just 10 minutes ago when I asked about the Environmental Advisory Committee meeting and the solar panels on the roof, and I was advised that they weren't functional until Christmas time, but quite clearly in the minutes it says solar panels on main council building will be functional as of Monday the 2nd of November 2020. There was a planned shutdown on the Saturday before to switch over to the new system. I just would like to ask if there's some process. I would have moved it at the time, but I was trying to find the item on the business paper when that particular one was being debated, and I didn't get to it in time. So I'm raising it now. Is there some way that this can be that the minutes of the Environmental Advisory Committee can be actually accurate?
Take that on board, Councillor Leslie, for sure. Yes. Whose domain is that, Councillor? Mr. Edgecombe. Thank you. Thank you, councillors.
Mayor Thompson, I do have a matter that I would like you to consider as a matter of great urgency. Just have to find it. Sorry. I've had a letter from a ratepayer of this area. Hi Marie, my daughter has made me aware of a rather distressing situation at the Portland pool. Her 7-year-old son is level 3 ASD and finds swimming in hot water and water activities an essential part of his therapy plan. But it seems that we can't use the pool area after school because it has been commercialised for swimming lessons from 3 until 7 every day. I thought that the pool belonged to the community and that it was built with ratepayers' money. Now, some of this information is not correct. Built with ratepayers' funds, and yet she has to pay for lessons to utilise the facility. She's a single mum who receives a minimal financial support from her ex-husband, and she's expected to use a sizable slice of her Centrelink payment to use the facility that we paid for. When the temperature was 10 degrees the other week, she was told to swim outside. Anyone who knows anything about ASD knows the sensory issues are a problem. Almost the cost of entry. Now, this lady has $12. I've checked, it's $7.50. It's double that of Bathurst pool, and the discount for pensioners is 50 cents in Lithgow, while Bathurst deposit is $2. What is it about Lithgow and their total disregard for people with special needs? Where are the affordable facilities and activities for these kind of people?
Councillor, is this about Lithgow pool or Portland pool?
Lithgow pool. Lithgow pool. Oh, I beg your pardon. No, Lithgow pool. Lithgow pool, the heated pool. The heated pool. Before the council sold the facility for underneath them, so we don't have a very high opinion of the council. I thought that I'd reach out to you to make you aware of the inadequacy available to the use of council assets. Now, another recent email or text message from this lady, who's a very decent person. She...
Councillor, I can't take that as a matter of
worries,
great urgency,
no
but I certainly will take it on board and we will look into it. Mr Edgecombe, can you certainly get a copy of that email and get back to the lady, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it then, councillors. We now, if I can get somebody to move that we go into closed council, and the reason for that is this report is confidential in accordance with section 10A2 of the Local Government Act 1993, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public in business relating to the following information that would, if disclosed, prejudice the maintenance of law. Okay, so somebody moved, Councillor Smith, seconded Councillor McAndrew. Those in favour? Against? Carried. Righto, turn her off. and Co. to prepare a contract of sale of land to act in council's behalf in respect of the legal aspects of the sale of Lot 55, authorise the General Manager to execute the documents necessary to facilitate the sale of Lot 55 and the application of renewed certificate of title if required. After legal fees are deducted from the sale proceeds, the remainder goes towards the council's cleaning costs. And that was carried 7 councillors to 2. Very well. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you. Meeting closed.